Hello and welcome everybody to Giant Slayer Series. That's right, we're back with week number 2. I'm DoA, with me is D, otherwise known as Dan Frodan Child.
That's right.
How you
Dramatic
doing, man?
reveal.
You made it. Dramatic entrance.
I'm doing great, Doa. It's good to be back for another week of the Giant Slayer series. Last Tuesday, we had a technical difficulty because of server login issues, so we couldn't
Yeah,
play the matches that we were expecting. I was kind of hyped from the first day, so I'm ready to get our second day officially underway.
everything was going fine until the Valorant Nation attacked. That's right. We like Valorant too, but it's TFT time. So yeah, you're right. One day last week, but this week we're back better than ever. 2 days of matches today and tomorrow. And now brought to you by Juked as well. Juked is an amazing platform. You can follow all of your favorite games and esports in one place. I use this site every single day. And if you're in the main Twitch channel chat for this, you can type exclamation point GSS, and that'll give you a link to the landing page that not only has this stream, but also has all the player point of views, all the VODs, all the schedule kind of stuff. So it's kind of all the info you need about Giant Slayer series in one place. So big thanks to Juke for coming on board and sponsoring us. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so a lot of times people, when they talk about TFT tournaments, they kind of want to be able to see all of the perspectives at the same time because there
Yeah.
are 8 players in the lobby and we only get to see one at a time, maybe sometimes two. And so, the idea is that Juked will help give you that coverage that you so desire to be able to watch all of those streams POV at the same time.
Yeah.
So you can get a bigger picture of what's happening because we get to contextualize everything through what we're watching on broadcast, but you, the viewer at home, have all the power to follow along the stories and maybe even flame us a little bit in chat when we're obviously missing something.
Oh,
Because we
no one
want
ever
to see
does
everyone's
that. What are you
POV.
talking about? I've never had that experience with Twitch ever, man. That's crazy. I don't know what are you saying to like get this reaction from people?
Maybe perhaps I just need to use the internet a little bit longer, and I'll find those mythological, nice people that you're talking
You'll
about on the internet.
learn the memes and make friends. That's the key. That's right. Well, let's take a look at our format for the series right now. Pretty simple stuff. We basically have 3 weeks of competition, now technically 3 weeks and 1 day because of that day we had to postpone last week, where we will have lobbies. We'll mix up the players in different lobbies, but at the end of the day, everybody's going to play in the same amount of games. And the point values that you see on the right side are what you get for your placement in each of those games. So at the end of all of the regular play, we'll know who our top 8 scorers are, and those players will go on to play in the finals lobby, which will be 5 games to determine who is a Giant Slayer Series Season 1 champion. It's going to be an exciting month of TFT for sure.
Yeah, and it's like with the announcement to competitive just earlier today, so a lot of the players
Yeah.
got fired up talking about, now that there are high stakes, $200,000 in terms of prize pool for the year. Who's going to be able to buckle down and start, making that rampage throughout the open/ladder portions of competitive TFT. And then, for people who are trying to look to potentially put their name out there, I know, for example, Kiting is Hard is a player that's been kind of leading the NA leaderboards. Also,
Right.
been very much self-promoting, saying that he's a free agent. It helps your case a lot when you're able to win one of the only tournaments out there for TFT against other top-level competition. So this is a really good warm-up. Anybody that's not taking it seriously, they're not really here. For the most part, everybody that's remaining in this competition, or rather, everyone who's playing in this competition, they've earned their spot, and they are all killers in their own right.
Absolutely. And again, we're taking a look at the player standings, but don't worry about the right side too much. Those are just all of the players that have not played yet. That's why they all have 0 points. What you're seeing is basically the results of 1 day of play with 8 players. Now, because the schedule got a little bit shifted around, some of the players that we already saw play last week will be back today. And then some of the ones that we haven't seen yet, we will still have to wait and see until tomorrow. So we're going to learn a little bit more about how the points breakdown is going to affect the standings overall at the end of this week. But we've still got some time to sort of see who's the best of the best. We're still early on in the tournament. Of course, here's our schedule right now. You can see the lobby for today, lobby A. Lobby B will be tomorrow. So you can find who you want to watch. If there's a player that plays a style you particularly like, for instance, Delicious Milk seems to be a big fan of the Mech Infiltrator comps. You want to learn a little bit more about how to force it every single game, jump over on his stream. Otherwise, we've got a lot of players playing a lot of really interesting stuff. So should be fun.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about, what the players have been grinding, at least just from their public profiles. I've been watching a
Mhm.
lot of their streams as well, particularly Kiyoon and Khroen, and while also tuning into Soju stream. So,
Mhm.
we'll talk a little bit about that. But for the most part, it's all about consistency week to week. We do multiple weeks, we do tons of lobbies, about a dozen of them, largely because we just want to give people the opportunity to prove themselves over
Yeah.
time.
The
TFT is
more
not
games we
a,
have, the better we'll be
yeah,
able to see.
it's not really about how well you do one week. It's about, can you do it consistently and also over the course of multiple patches. We're gonna have a different patch coming up this Wednesday.
Yep.
They posted some of the theoretical changes that they're talking about right now. Their PBE stuff that's going on, and we'll see how it affects next week for week 3.
That patch is going to be so interesting because of some of the proposed changes, because it's not going to affect just some of the compositions that are played, but it's going to affect kind of how people play the game with the changes to the economy and damage per round. So that's going to be fascinating. Take a look though at the prize pool right now. First place, of course, for the $700, and you even get a little bit from showing up 9th through 16th. Still gets $150 to show up and play some TFT, and that's not that bad.
Yeah, and even if the prize pool is not $1 million per se, I think what's important is that this is like one of the first competitions that you can really put out there for,
Right.
especially Galaxy set. And kind of we're talking about. It's starting to pick up. The momentum for TFT competitive is starting to formulate. So we do know that people who are able to get that early leg up they do have a very good chance of extending that career into making it as a pro TFT player. So a lot of the players that you're seeing, I'm sure that while they love their stream and their community, they also have a lot of pride that they want to play for, as well as opportunities in the future that it opens up to claim yourself as like the first champion of the set.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially with the announcements today, like now people know, like Riot has said it before, but now for sure we have the evidence out there that they're really getting serious about TFT esports. So there's a lot more to play for. And so tournaments like this is one of the best ways to kind of get your name out there and do it, right? So let's take a look at the lobby for today. You can see the scoring per match on the right side as well. And here is who we have to look forward to. Agon, Disc, Khroen, Kiting is hard, Kiyoon, Mismatch, Socks, Souless, and Thiessen. I'm going to absolutely destroy the pronunciation for that. Save me, Frodan. Do you know?
I thought it was Thiant, but
Ryan? Could be.
yeah, but I might be mistaken.
This is where chat will jump in.
I am multitasking a lot of my streams because I have a lot of work, and so I don't usually watch a lot with audio.
Uh-huh.
So I end up just kind of like window browsing, so to speak.
Yeah.
That being said, I have been following a handful of these players in particular, and so I'm looking forward to see what they got tonight, particularly for people who we haven't seen yet, right? So we'll
Right.
see how the other half of the lobbies will end up doing. Um,
Mhm.
in terms of what we expect to see tonight, I think the meta has opened up pretty significantly since last week. Last week, I think most people agreed that reroll compositions were the best, and if you didn't play that, you probably most likely played some kind of cybernetics or KO composition, and that still largely has still stayed the same, but there's just more options to build into right now. So I
Right.
want to see if any of these players are willing to take that risk, or are they just going to stick to more of the things that we know, which is mech infiltrators, playing perhaps Star Guardians, or just the cybernetics and KO compositions that a lot of people love playing.
Well, kind of the big question for me today is like, are we going to see people bold enough to go for the rebels like Master Yi, Yasuo carry comps, the Bang Bros as people are saying, and we'll see if that works. I'm not 100% like convinced that this is like a top comp yet, but I have seen it have success in certain lobbies, so we'll see. I wonder if anyone's going to be bold enough to play it.
Yeah, I think that it's just kind of a very open meta right now. You can almost
Yeah,
make a lot of things work depending on one, obviously the items and the champions you get early game. Two, if you're win streaking or lose streaking, and three, often like the galaxies have been dictating a lot of the pacing of the early game. So
very
if you have
true.
like
Yeah.
an early lilac. 4 cost unit, how do you build around that versus medium legends, which gives you what feels like infinite time to
Mhm.
build up your composition and land it. So I want to see a little bit more of that, thrown into a mix. I think a lot of people have responded positive to the carousel changes that have been happening lately.
It's a little bit more
Specifically
reasonable now. Yeah.
yeah, specifically the tweak back to normalcy. Before it was a little bit too out there, and now that it's
Yeah.
kind of normalizing. It feels a lot better, especially when those random curveballs do get thrown and how they kind of adapt to that. Um, so I do think that there's a little bit of room for experimentation. I even saw some people playing just straight up rebels lately and trying to
Yeah.
see how far they can push this composition that was dominating at the very beginning of set three or team for galaxies. And I think that we might see some of that if they're given that opportunity.
Well, with some of the buffs that are supposedly coming in this week as well, that might kind of boost Rebels a little bit back in. But people are also kind of discovering stuff, right? I mean, we talked about the Bang Bros comp, but there's also been some pretty good Jin comps, or not Jin, Jinx comps as well that have relied on just powering her up and adding like another blaster or two in there. And then you can pretty much like put Kale into anything. So it's people are finding ways to use Rebels, and it's not quite as like bad as it was. Let's jump back again and take a look at the lobby one more time. I mentioned earlier we would have some returning players from last week and some that we have not seen before. This is actually the lobby that we're going to see today. Agon, Soju, Souless, Kiyoon, Gunmay, Rayditz, Fluffy, and Khroen. So a few familiar faces. The one that jumps to mind immediately when I look at this list is Rayditz, who is one of our points leaders at 29 points in the tournament right now, who played that super, super consistent, just like Cyber, Chrono, lots of Kale, like just the good stuff, I think, right now. Not like all the 5-cost good stuff that people had, but kind of like the middle game good stuff that exists in TFT at the moment. And he secured what? I think it was 3 third places and 2 second places, or 1 second place, right?
Yeah, he plays top 3 every single game,
Yeah.
at least, and was able to get top 2 very consistently. And he was just, I mean, admittedly, by his own, by the words of his own mouth, he said that he kind of high rolled a lot early game, and I think that's totally fine because in tournaments you have to get lucky to but
Yeah, for sure.
in order to outplace players at this caliber, you do have to have luck on your side. I mean, I think
But
people
like
acknowledge that.
with a game like TFT as well, when you high roll early, you still need to really be aware of like, all right, when is this early high roll? You know, how far is that going to carry me? Like, when do I need to make those changes and transitions to go into like a later mid game or a late game composition? He did a good job too of kind of making those moves. But again, when you get like a strong cybernetic start, it's not that hard to make those moves, honestly.
Well, I mean, he capitalized really well, and I actually slightly disagree with that notion in
Really
that I totally understand what you're saying. Like, oh, if you get like the early cybernetic start, it might feel kind of like,
feels super
it's so
strong.
easy to win streak. And I would agree with that in the sense that if you got like the highest of high rolls, because you don't have to think much about it. But I do think that cybernetics part of what makes it so fascinating is because there's a ton of different ways you can approach the same problem, and there's a lot of ways that you can like play 3 cybernetics plus some other change, or perhaps are you going to win streak and level aggressively, or perhaps some people just like deviate entirely and play like vanguards and transition into cybernetics.
Sure.
And I think that's where Rayditz did really well in particular. He understood how to get to that same destination in a multitude of ways, and I think that's really important skill when you're playing things like cybernetics and the Kale composition. And I think that's also partially why, if you look at the top players in the high elo lobbies, that's the reason why they favor this kind of composition. I think the number one reason why people love playing Kale is, one, it's awesome. You get the fantasy of destroying everything with the Angel of
She
Death
just wrecks
and
everybody if you get the right items on her. Yeah.
backhands everybody. And then the second thing, of course, is that it's extremely flexible with how you choose to play it. If you ask Ine, or if you ask Tafudo, if you ask like all these other top players who specialize in the composition Soju, they disagree. And I think it's so cool to see that kind of difference in philosophy.
Yeah, well, on that note, time to get into game number 1. On board right now with Khroen as he gets started. Another Giant Slayer caster actually does the fight nights for us here, and does a great job. So,
Souless got the
what's he gonna grab?
Right.
Looks like, yeah,
that's right. He is a fellow Fro army. Is what they call him over on the Khroen channel. He has done really well in a lot of ladder base performances, and Khroen is also, a player that I appreciate a lot because whenever I watch his stream, it may look like that Khroen has a lot of hair, but it's actually masking, it's disguising the size of his brain. So
that's the oldest trick in the book, right? Heimerdinger's been using that one for years.
Khroen plays really wide. He's open to so many different compositions. And it's not his hair. It's the size of his brain that he's trying to cover with his afro.
Yeah,
Love
pretty
it.
much. So looking at the items, starting out with the Negatron cloak and chain vest, got the tier. So that's a lot of parts of really good stuff right there. That's like, if I was playing this game, I'd be really happy with those 3 items to start off with.
Yeah, cloak, vest, and
protector game.
tier are pretty good solid base items. A lot of times people who start tier tend to try and press something that's really tier oriented, like Star Guardians. People who
Or
start
if you're looking
vest
for like a
try
Kaisa,
to
I guess, but
yeah,
blocking
exactly. Some
shot.
people might like use it to itemize Kaisa. However, I think most people have agreed that mech is what you usually itemize for. So if you do end up trying to go for a mech infiltrator build that uses mech pilots and the 4 infiltrators, you do tend to want to build things like Bramble Vest or Titan's Resolve or anything defensive early on, like a QSS.
true enough. Thinking about adding that Jarvan 2-star in there. Doesn't need it for this round, obviously, but it's as far as 2-stars goes, it's definitely one of the least impressive, I would say.
It's definitely least impressive, but it's surprisingly like a really important unit if you start to transition into Dark Stars.
Yeah, for sure.
One vertical synergy that's been growing more in popularity is just playing straight up Dark Stars. And the best part about a 6 synergy like Dark Star is that you don't actually have to 2-star, or 3-star rather. You have to 2-star almost all of them. But you don't have to get any of them to 3-star in order to just output a crazy amount of damage. I was playing a game today earlier with my buddy, and his Shaco at a 2-star, having like a Last Whisper as his only item, output like almost 20,000 damage in a single battle.
I mean, we are talking about Shaco here, you realize.
Right. It's actually it's absolutely absurd. And it wasn't even a 3-star, and it didn't have any like the perfect god items that we usually people describe, like Bloodthirster, Guardian.
Right.
So Dark Star is very much a possible path to build it.
Yeah, and you can see him pick up another couple protectors too, and you can go for that sort of protector, add in a little bit of Celestial start for some strong early game presence, and it looks like he's doing okay.
Yeah,
we'll see.
He's probably going to lose this first one, and that's totally okay. Like you said, Jarvan 2 isn't particularly impressive. But he's amassing a transitionary build, finds a Caitlyn too, which he can also put some items on. Another thing is that he's not committed to win streaking because we knew that he wasn't going to slam any of these items. The only one that you could somewhat justify to play this fast is Ionic Spark, but he doesn't have like a great holder of it.
Yeah, if you're going to play the Ionic Spark, you need to have somebody who can capitalize on it too. You need to have like a pretty AP heavy backline.
Yeah, or you can just have someone that's super tanky like Leona or Poppy hold on to it.
But too, just get a lot of procs off of it. Yeah.
Completely open forward.
Yeah. Just wants the gold, man. Why not? He's still sitting at 96, so that is something. I'm casting with Robodan now. That's cool.
Apologies, I don't know what's going on. It just could be the LA internet crap now.
It could be, yeah. Discord is a little bit iffy from time to time as well. Thinking about picks up the 2-star Jinzhao. I mean, Jinzhao is pretty strong. I'm having to kind of look at the other stream too. Our view is a little bit pixelated here, so trying to keep track of it there. Opts to go for the. Looks like he is working a little bit towards Dark Stars actually. Pick up the Mordekaiser, not opting to go with that protector instead.
Well, we switched POVs. We're now on Souless.
Oh right, man, like it's hard to see.
Khroen did find the 2-star Jarvan, or 2-star Jarvan and the 2-star Xin Zhao, so he's leaning towards protector. Souless has played a lot of protector, but looks like he is leaning towards that early Vanguard build. Does have his options still very open, but Dark Star comp is something that he has played and he is open to do. Souless, is actually somewhat infamous for sometimes like spamming a single composition if it's very powerful, borderline overpowered, and also kind of talking about the state of the game very passionately. But Souless, when I look at his profile, he's actually been playing pretty wide lately. I know that he hasn't played the most amount of games on his main. He's actually been kind of playing on his other accounts. But I've been very impressed with the kind of like the compositions that he is open to right now with his lineup.
Defensive carousel. So we'll see what he grabs off of that. It's funny because I've seen 5 offensive carousels in a row in my ranked games today. So that's where the defensive carousels have been working.
You know, I think
feel over for
offensive
like a
carousels
Jace or Jin Hyro.
are really, really exciting, especially for people who are trying to put their game plan together. But yeah, I think that most players have compositions that are fairly balanced. They want a lot of defensive items because things like QSS and Trap Claw are becoming super important in compositions now.
Right?
And also because of like how important like Bramble Vest is in such a damage heavy meta. But then that's when like caster compositions, especially Star Guardian, started rising in popularity. And now we kind of have a very equally balanced dynamic of aggressive and defensive composition, which is good.
So Souless does actually build the Bramble Vest onto Graves here as well to kind of power up the pirate part of things. Oh, going for more Darius's. I feel like we're, you know, the buffs that come in on Darius, I wonder if we're going to start to see the Darius carry builds rise in popularity a little bit. If anything, it's the Jace that's the carry for the pirates these days, but everybody loves the reset Darius build. It's a meme, but it could become good.
I mean, Darius is very good for the early stages. I would say between stage 2 and partially through stage 3, Darius is completely viable to carry composition. And the true hidden power of Darius isn't just the fact that he nukes the board and he dunks everybody, but it's also the gold acquisition through Space Pirates that everybody loves.
Oh, yes!
And that early game, wow, that super fast Jin, are you kidding me? That early game gold ramp is super important, especially now that he has that Jace. He can replace that Darius and play Jin.
Huh, yeah, okay. So there you go, just like that. Darkstar online, and now just looking for some more Jin items.
Yeah, this is definitely a tricky situation. He can't get Space Pirates and he can't get the Dark Stars. And I think that in the early game, it's really important to get your gold ramp, especially if you're this low on the gold. Souless is at 9 gold going into the round before Krugs. That's very low, relatively speaking. So I think prioritizing the gold count makes more sense to me.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, let's see.
So if we're going into the Vanguard-based composition, obviously the most important thing is 4 Vanguards, but he already has the hardest part down, which is getting that Jace. Sometimes that Jace can be very elusive, and you're not going to find Wukong for a while, so you have to play like Poppy, Leona, Mordekaiser plus whoever. And if you can play those 4 Vanguards plus Jin, Souless might have just his composition effectively done, and then you just have to outfit it with, you know, 3 Dark Stars, maybe throw in some Celestial in there with Ashe, and then he'll be set.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm still working on some stuff on my end. I can't really see the game very well right now. Apologies.
No problem. It is definitely trying times as the internet has been overloaded everywhere.
Right?
Souless finds a spatula item, and that opens up a couple different possibilities here. The first is, very obviously, he could just use it to make a Dark Star, and he could go 6 Dark Stars without having to play units that are very mediocre, to say the least, like Jarvan. Another is that he can pivot entirely to play Mech Infiltrator because he has the spatula, which can make a Demolitionist bomb, and you can attach it to Kai'Sa. So every time Kai'Sa uses her ability, she will stun everybody. And he also has a Bramble Vest, which makes a very great defensive item onto the mech. And then the third option is to actually make a Celestial Orb and try to instead play a Celestial-oriented composition around Jin and not have to be reliant on... I mean, he can find like ways to play 4 Celestial, which is like really cool, but also very rare. And I'm not sure how good it is because I haven't ever been able to play it consistently myself. So
okay.
These 3 options are definitely on the table for him here.
Yeah, let me see. Sorry, I'm kind of catching up.
No problem. And it looks like he's Souless is starting to turn the corner. He's crushing his fights. And I think this is like something that's really important. A lot of times people are willing to be in the same position Souless is, which is low eco. By around stage 3-1 to 3-2, normally people are hitting about 50 gold and getting their full interest. And I see a lot of players hold things onto their bench and have around the same amount of gold, like 20, 30 gold by this point of the game. But the big difference is, one, Souless already kind of has direction of where his build's going. Wow, another chase.
Oh,
And a Leona. Oh, crap. He's got 4 Vanguards.
Wow, and that's
sick.
yeah, that's pretty much perfect. And do you give up I guess he doesn't need to give up Darkstar for this. Replacing the 2-star Graves feels a little bit awkward, but it gives you a chance to move the items off of him though.
Yeah, and also, what's important is that Graves isn't really going to be contributing much, but the 4 Vanguards very much are. Graves is good for the pirate synergy, but I mean, it's a 2-star Graves and a 1-star Jace.
Oh, no,
Chances
so
that
this
they
is
kill
fucked up.
stuff isn't super high.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Target Leona. That's so good.
So that
Let's
being
see.
said,
But I wonder, this is what we were kind of talking about a little bit in the pre-show though, where some people are starting to put a lot of items onto Jace and use him as sort of the carry of this type of build. So I wonder if that's kind of what we're gearing towards here, because Bramble Vest is a great item on Jace.
Right.
And so Jin just kind of becomes the extra item guy in that comp. So I wonder if that's what we're going to see.
He's definitely on pace for it, because the thing that I see the Vanguard builds doing a lot is buying defensive items. I know that, you want to, wow, another Jace 2 and Mordekaiser 2 and a Karma.
That was an insane shop for Souless right there. Well, I mean, now it's kind of like, if you don't win streak off of this, you start to feel kind of bad.
I mean, I'm almost positive he's going to win streak. I would like to see him explore the opportunity of replacing this Jarvan with a Karma, but at the same time, it's totally okay because it's a 2-star unit. He does have the ability to also slam down, I believe, an Ionic Spark if he ends up choosing to play that, but it's tricky because he's still coming up on a carousel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he is on the carousel next round and wants to stay open to it. And just look, like nobody can even get close to killing Jace. He got 2v1 and he absorbed 2 abilities, and he's still alive. That Bramble Vest is doing work.
I can't wait to try this build, actually. Like, this is one of the ones I haven't played yet, but it just looks like a ton of fun, and I'm really curious to see if he's going to be able to keep this on. I mean, he's on pace for a pretty strong finish, so I'm wondering where he'll end up at. All right, there's a carousel. I can see gloves and a sword and a Negatron cloak. Like the bottom of the carousel, I can see. The top, I cannot. So there's a tier. It's coming into view now. And there's a bow. Okay, so.
Yeah, he's going to pick last on a win streak. I probably want to take the bow here. Another rod doesn't really serve a lot of purpose in a Jin-based composition.
Sure.
The rod could be useful for an Ionic Spark, but he already has a rod. So that's the reason why I think I would take a bow here. The versatility of options. Plus, I think that if there's one item that's very important on Jin, besides Guardian Angel, I would say Runin is the second most important item on Jin. I think a lot of people look at Infinity Edge as like the most important item on Jin, and I think that while it is important because he's able to crush everything.
Sure.
I found that if I only could choose 2 items, I usually want to choose Guardian Angel and Runin's Hurricane.
I'd actually agree with you on that. The reason being that just getting more damage spread out across the team is nice. Also, the attack speed helps him get to that 4th attack quicker. And that 4th attack already does plenty of damage. So the IE is nice, but it kind of feels like icing on the Jin cake for the moment, whereas GA to bring him back and Runin's for more attack speed and more just hitting everything seems a little bit stronger.
Yeah, and
definitely bored with that. Yeah. That's right, Runin's. And he's got the sparring gloves on there too, so that could get turned into a QSS possibly. If he doesn't go for the GA, at least that keeps Jin a little bit safer.
Yeah, I also think that if he ends up picking up another bow, a Last Whisper has been rising in popularity.
That's a good point, yeah.
As well, and I think that Last Whisper is really important because you will be able to do their armor reduction, and it just kind of helps punch through like all these Vanguard setups or people who are stacking things like Titan's Resolve, just to help get through that really tanky frontliner.
Right. So still sticking with Souless right now, as he's reached a very comfortable position with 50 gold and could just kind of roll down the difference. Each team running into another Darkstar build, it looks like. But definitely a lot less 2-stars over there and a lot less Jace wrecking everybody. That was a pretty good Ash Arrow, though. And Shaco gets in the back and causes some problems, but those Vanguards are just so hard to kill.
Yeah, it's a 1-star Shaco, so, Shaco isn't super threatening until he starts to get 2-stars and his synergies. I think that's really when things get to start to become very difficult to handle.
I could not tell which Shaco it was. It was Shaco shaped. I knew that. Yeah.
I've been wearing glasses since I've been like 3 or 4 years old, so I'm used to blurry images. Don't worry.
That's how I feel like I'm at. Only I'm wearing my glasses. On board with Rayditz now, as we're swapping over, going for yet another cybernetics-based composition. 3 Blade Masters, got the blasters in there as well. So he's also got Celestial because of the Zion. And, you and me and some other players were talking about this earlier this week, that Celestial seems to be something that a lot of top players are starting to prioritize, and that it gives you that healing that would have come on your carry from like a healing item. And by throwing in Celestial in different comps that you may not have thrown it in before, you kind of get to free up an item slot on your carry, basically, and still get that healing, but also be able to add another either damage or pure defensive item.
Yeah, Celestial is becoming a more important mid-game synergy. A lot of times it's great in a late-game synergy as well if it's something as a focal point of your composition, like Jhin and Ashe, so you might as well just like throw in Celestial there too. Yeah, like I think also largely due to the fact that Kassadin has skyrocketed in popularity relative to where he was before. Kassadin, with his ability, disarms people, and that really messes up certain units from being able to do anything. If you get, Kassadin, for example, to hit Shaco and disarm him, Shaco actually is not a threat whatsoever. He just literally stands there and does nothing.
Yeah, he just becomes a literal clown. What do you think about the Kassadin 3 build that was popping up here and there the other day? It doesn't seem like yeah, okay. So how'd it go?
It was okay. I landed top 3. It was a cybernetics game that didn't pan out like the way I wanted to, so I pivoted to a Kayle-based composition, and then I played a Kassadin 3 as my front line, along with 4 Chrono and Kayle. And it was decent. Like, it wasn't amazing, but like it helped me outlast Melk Infiltrator, which I think was the cool part.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I mean, slowing down the mech quite a bit with the Kassadin ult certainly helps a bit.
Oh, definitely. I want to call to attention a couple of things here. One, I want to say that Infinity Edge on Lucian is really powerful. So if you have the opportunity to play it early, it ends up being one of the best items that he can have along with Red Buff. And the fact that he has both is excellent. And as you can see, with a bunch of 1-star units, it's still relatively competitive to other people who have been 2-star units for a lot of their composition.
It is shocking just how strong Lucian gets with those items, even still at 1-star. Meanwhile,
yeah, and he's playing against another player who also had a 1-star Lucian with red buff, so one of them had to win. The second thing is that he's built in early redemption and the Zeroth portal. And I think that a lot of people look at these items like Zeroth portal and the redemption, they think that they're pretty weak, but overall they do have their uses, especially early game, to help you get snowballing. So
well, redemption definitely got better now that it heals everybody on the team instead of just that area. But you like Zeroth portal as well, huh? I suppose early it does help you kind of get that extra little finish maybe that can turn a loss into a win.
Yeah, it's also something that is just conveniently inconvenient for your opponent. So yeah, it's nice for you to just get stuff in the way while your other carries do the work. So I think Zeroth portal is particularly important in compositions that might lack frontline. So you might see it a lot in Star Guardians, for example, because they have Nico and maybe Poppy, or in Kayle-based compositions, which tends to struggle a lot with the frontline because they want to protect Kayle, but they want to have all these really awesome synergies like having the Chrono attack speed boosts.
Yeah, I think it's easier out on Poppy and Star Guardians is pretty decent. Done that a couple times. Khroen takes a hit from Rayditz. Khroen going for the Protectors build, looks like. But no 3 stars as of yet that I could see. And,
yeah, when I saw Khroen, he had the early game units. He didn't have the items. He needs things like Bramble Vest on Xin Zhao. I think that's one of the most important items on Xin Zhao because he survives for most of the battle, and he tends to output most of his damage through Bramble Vest. Funny enough, not actually his abilities.
Huh. Very true. So, but, Rayditz, let's see. What did he grab? Okay, going to Khroen now, actually. Forget Rayditz. We're going to check out to see how this Protector build is going right now. And 2 Celestial, 2 Mystic. So I feel like the 4 Mystic side of this has maybe fallen off a little bit. And I I've been seeing people prioritize Celestial a little bit more, but you still see it kind of change depending on the lobby. What do you think about Celestial versus Mystic right now
I think Mystic
for the
is still the way to
protectors?
go. Wow,
Oh
3-star
wow, that was
Rakan.
fast,
He's one off of 3-star Nico and 3-star Jarvan. And one big difference that I'm
man.
seeing is that he rolled all the way down. But
Yeah,
he has a
well, he was
second
down.
Shojin. He's a second Shojin and Morello Namakan for this Rakan, which is absolutely bonkers if Rakan can ultimate a few times.
I mean, that's perfect items for Rakan is double Shojin Morellos, I think a lot of people would say. But like you
Very
said,
close to it, yes.
lacking the items on Jin Zhao though, just the QSS and Chain Vest right now, and not enough
Right.
to take the win in that round. So you can see why he rolled all the way down, and you can see why maybe the Protectors comp isn't quite as popular as it used to be here, where even with a couple 3-stars, it's still struggling a little bit. But I do think it comes down to the items more than anything.
Yeah, and it's particularly difficult because some people have early power spike by getting things like Jin, and Jin started rising in popularity during
Right.
the early days of Galaxies, largely to like one-shot agents out. Not that it meant that you couldn't win as protectors, but it just became a lot more difficult.
Yeah, very true. And Protectors, even with like 4 Mystics, still suffers against something like Star Guardians if the Nico has the Ionic Spark, because it cuts through a lot of the MR that a lot of magic resist that Mystic gives you too. So it can lose some surprising matchups even after some 3-stars. But man, that Rakan is still scary. But MF gets a big ultimate. Khroen takes another loss. This is looking a little bit rough right now. He's thinking about building that second Shojins.
Yeah, he's doing the responsible thing of waiting to see what ends up happening off of the Raptors.
Right.
But yeah, it's exactly what we're kind of talking about. He's almost out of time. Before everyone else is just fully online, and he's just going to be playing behind for the rest of the game.
Yeah, you can take maybe like 1 or 2 losses more before you have to just. Well, I guess he already did roll all the way down actually. So now you kind of just cross your fingers. Yeah.
If I get
All right,
if I
now
fight
moving
Khroen,
over
I just
to
go
Kiyoon, so we'll see
there's no way I beat him.
what he's got going on.
There's
Right
actually
now,
zero chance
scouting
I
some of
beat
the
him.
other boards, taking a look
Kiyoon
at
is-
Khroen's board.
Kiyoon is very interested in what Khroen
I
gets
leaked so
off
much
his
HP
items
because
as
I didn't
well,
hit
just like
Fizz
we
for 2
are.
rounds.
Because I think it's really dependent on
Second
what ends up
Buddha.
happening there. Kiyoon is a streamer that has been playing a ton of Mech Infiltrator lately.
Yeah.
I might be
It's
second
almost
Buddha, actually,
dominating
to
all of
fail.
his
I might
entire
mistake
profile.
actually.
But he's also been playing some Star
This
Guardians,
is
so
good.
it's kind of a fun little dynamic between his chat trolling him, saying, "Are you a Mech
I don't have
Infiltrator one trick, or are you a Star
I'll go
Guardian one
7.
trick?"
Well, the funny thing is that
I
you
have a
can
Rumble.
kind of pivot between the two a little bit smoother than some of the other comps, because you get a lot of sorcerer starts as you're waiting for the mech to sort of build, as you're building up kind of your infiltrator backline. And if you're not hitting the mech stuff, but you do have some sorcerers, you can move over into Star Guardian sometimes. So yeah, weirdly enough, you can actually pivot between those comps pretty smoothly once in a while.
Yeah. Sorry. Really interesting decisions here from Kiyoon. I was not expecting him to make a Gunblade. The first thing that caught my eye was a Guardian Angel onto Shaco.
Yeah.
And he ends up going for the Gunblade while moving the tier and the vest onto Kaisa to make a Frozen Heart. And that's a very unusual choice, given that, one, if he was able to keep that vest and make something like really good onto the mech, that's still on the table, especially since how he's super close to a Rumble 3, and being able to itemize Rumble 3 with those items is very, very powerful.
It's
the second thing
interesting
is
to
that-
think about, because if you don't have like better carry items on your Shaco, things like the Frozen Heart can slow down their carries and give your infiltrators more time to do work, I suppose, and it sort of protects your mech in a way. So it's interesting.
Right.
I haven't seen anyone do that before though.
Well, I guess the realization is, one, I apologize, I realize we're in stage 5, so he can't get any other components, so he has to use
Oh,
the
you're
Inhibitor.
right.
And the second thing, he's also almost dead. So Kiyoon at 9 life has to jam his items and just make use of what he's got.
So there's a good dose of like wishful thinking with some of this as well. And he does manage to oh no, he doesn't. Never mind. Yikes, 7th place exit for Kiyoon. That's a rough start to the day for him. Not quite as rough as Agon that went out in 8th. But the lobby is starting to slim down a little bit. But look at this. All the remaining players in the 40s right now. So we've got a pretty tight lobby remaining overall.
Yes, in fact, I would say that this is one of the tightest lobbies I've ever seen, first through sixth, at this stage of the game. I think they're all within 10 hit points or less. That's very even, and it's also very tricky because no one's been able to truly run away with the lobby. Even Khroen, who's last, he's actually last in a great spot because he has almost the same amount of life as everyone else, but he'll be first pick on the carousel. Unless he ends up winning this fight very convincingly, which looks like he's doing super well.
He's doing it.
This Jin comp.
Yeah, this Jin in the back, though, needs to get handled. Meanwhile, the GA brings the Shaco back up, but he's in a little bit of trouble. That's the thing, is that GA with the Shaco and the Bloodthirster, just a little bit too much to handle.
Yeah, so if you can find any good defensive item for Xin Zhao, Titan's Resolve is something that I think I want to see. Another option is to give mana-based items to Sona, but Sona isn't a 3-star, so it's kind of tricky to justify giving her those items.
I didn't look at the unit.
I don't see what he picks up. Thinking about it.
I guess I get Jarvan.
Yeah, Rapid Fire Cannon, not quite as inspiring. Decides to go with the Morellonomicon instead. That was Gunmay, actually.
Those are pretty fucking bad for me, so like,
So 3-star Jarvan finally ends up giving the second Titan's Resolve to him instead. Looks like he wants to keep his items open in case he's able to find that Bramble Vest, very fortunately, off of Kane. In this case, there's not really much to do in terms of powering up his army. What he could do is level, but like, what is he going to put in if he levels?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, you'd try to find maybe like a third Dark Star, I guess, is something, but would that really add a whole lot power-wise? Because you've got Jarvan and Mord. Yeah. That's about it, I suppose. But...
Jin comp. This is really unfortunate for Khroen. He's running into Jins, and they are like designed to try and stop things like Protectors. So this is now effectively Khroen's last life here, because even if he survives this round, which is still possible, but the moment he loses stage 6, he's dead.
Pretty much.
So he goes for the level, puts in a second Karma. He's not expecting much out of it, but hopefully that extra unit will give him a little bit more power just to survive long enough to see what comes off the items. Because the number one thing that has been the problem is just that his Rakan has the right items. He's got all the 3-stars, but his Xin Zhao is super crucial and doesn't have Bramble Vest, which has been very important in the metagame so far.
Yeah, his Xin Zhao has the Titan's Resolve, but he could really use like a Dragon's Fang too. That's one of the other items that would be pretty helpful with that. Going into what could be his last life right now.
Oh gosh, you can't lose by 5 units here.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, well, gets another extra kill. Might get a little bit more with the Rakan, and the Rakan doing work right now.
Okay.
Oh man, it's taking so many hits, but it's not going to win it for him. But did it keep him alive? It did. Yes, just barely. 3 HP.
Yeah, he needed to survive by at least 4 units, and he was able to kill off a lot of them. So down to his final life.
Yeah. Well, hey, final life is still alive. There's still a chance to like sneak in a top 4 if you're Khroen, maybe. This lobby's still fairly close, but right now Gunmay kind of excelling. Looks like Khroen taking a look at the other items people have coming for them. Couple big ones in there. I think I saw a Titan's Resolve in there.
Oh, gold, which secretly might actually be one of the best things for Khroen if he wasn't just guaranteed
wow, a lot of gold
that he wanted. Yeah, so now he can roll down for the Lulu. The Lulu is the most important thing here because he can go to 4 Mystics. I guess he needs Soraka as well.
Right. He's a little ways away from 4 Mystics. Could maybe add Sorcerer in there if he wanted to kind of get crazy. There's a 2-star Karma now. He's thinking about the Jin for like Dark Star just to give himself any sort of synergy there. But it's a rough situation.
Oh, wow. He might play 4 Celestials. This is not good. He has a second Titan's Resolve. He needs to slam down the Xin Zhao. This is not good at all for Khroen.
Yeah. Not ideal, but maybe the healing will come through. You know, people have been prioritizing Celestial a little bit more, and this will certainly help the Rakan stay up. But this sniper comp is so strong. Everybody's just getting evaporated. Ash Arrow locks on Rakan on the back, and there's Khroen exiting at probably 5th place, 6th place even. Rough start for Khroen to start the day.
Yeah, truly unfortunate. Wow, a triple Thresh shop at 15 gold. What does that mean? Do you play that?
That's called Destiny. I mean, it's, you know, you probably don't want to put it in what he's got, but that's when you tell the grandkids about.
Right.
And then you're like, and I
amazing.
didn't buy it.
That is
he rolls
ridiculous.
past it.
2 more Threshes. What?
The game wants him to play Thresh. He could like be on his way. There's another one. He could have 2 2-star Thresh right now. Okay, to be fair, maybe some of those Thresh were some of the ones he saw earlier, but still, it's just not the right comp.
Yeah.
No
Speaking of
Chrono,
the comp, this Darkstar is doing a lot of work with just the Shaco at 2-star, and you can see Jin just has Runins and nothing else, and he's still able to lead the lobby in HP and get the win. Darkstar looking to be able to make its stamp early here in tonight's games. Because I think Souless was also doing the same exact thing, which will also imply that 2 out of the top 3 are playing a Jin-based Darkstar comp.
Which is interesting because I feel like a lot of the talk last week was about how the Jin comps are starting to fall off a little bit, that they were a little bit too vulnerable to leave Jin as your carry. But here we are. It's still a great comp, but did not expect to see 2 of them in the top 4.
Yeah, well, Souless is, we got a little glimpse of it, was that he has that 3-star J, so he is playing the Vanguard's version. Jin Guard is what the shorthand moniker of it is. And I think that in the head-to-head, who do you think comes out ahead between the Vanguard Jin versus the Darkstar Jin?
I think it kind of depends. I mean, obviously the Darkstar Jin would theoretically be doing more damage, so it really kind of depends on how long the front line holds, and I think you have to maybe give the edge to the Vanguards there, and that's looking like how it's going to go. As Jay slam jams in on the Jin, and without the GA, he's not coming back. And yeah, I think it comes down to just that stronger front line.
Yeah, you know, I waver back and forth. I've been kind of like saying, wow, Gunmay, he sees a Bramble Vest for himself. That is incredibly fortunate for him.
Wow.
Given that he has a way to stop. Like, so the thing about it is that I don't think Gunmay had a legitimate defense against his opponent's Jin. Now he does. That's a really sick Bramble Vest. Now he can put his Lulu front line. I like it a lot.
Yep, has the locket as well, just to buff up Jarvan and Mordekaiser just a little bit more as well. But I'm really curious. Double locket on this Jace as well on the other side. Wukong with the Morellas too is kind of scary in that it can provide all that CC, of course, but then it can provide all of that damage over time and anti-healing too. So I like that. I like powering up the Wukong a little bit there.
Yeah, just a little bit. And this most likely will be the last fight of the game.
Probably.
If the trends continue.
Yeah, waiting to see what this Jace can do. There's a big Lulu ultimate. That's what he was kind of counting on.
Right.
But will it be enough? That Jace still standing strong and slowly working his way to the back lines. Jace just seems unkillable right now. And yeah, Jace able to do it. Jin able to get just a lot of free firing going on. And that'll do it. I believe. Does that finish? Yes, it does. And Souless manages to take game 1. All right. Well, that answers our question about the Jace carry build, huh?
Totally. And you know, it's kind of what we were talking about in the very beginning. You were bringing up that you really wanted to try this composition. You can see exactly why it is a very good composition. And I think that part of what makes it really fun in particular is that it's very open-ended. All you're really required to do is get 4 Vanguards and Jin plus Ashe, and then just kind of make do with whatever else you get.
Pretty much. Jin just sort of becomes like the extra item guy, and Jace just becomes tanky. And you know, one of the things I really like about it is that there seems to be a lot of different people you can put different items on, right? You're prioritizing Jace and Jin, but we did see Wukong become like a valid threat with the Morellonomicon as well. So after game number 1, Souless on top of 10 points with his first place finish. Gunmay at 8th, Soju 7th. Rayditz manages another top 4. That's his 5th top 4 in a row. It's also his lowest finish so far at 4th, but still consistent for him. Then Fluffy Crow and Kiyoon and Agon having a little bit of a tougher go of it in game number 1, but hey, still 3 games remaining.
Yeah, still 3 games remaining. Not the end of the world.
No.
For Agon and Kiyoon, I anticipate them to bounce back. Agon and Kiyoon could also be like similar in that they're both trying to force Meg Infiltrator a lot. I didn't get to see Agon's POV very much, or and I didn't get to see like who.
We don't know if it was
against...
a handhold 7 and 8, but
it could have been. It could have been a hand-holding 7th and 8th together for Agon and Kiyoon.
Mech,
that happens.
No pivot.
They were super close to stabilizing. Kiyoon had like 8 units of like everything.
Yeah. Sometimes you just can't hit that 3-star, but if you're playing a contested comp, that's a lot of times how it is, where you have to kind of get a little bit lucky, or you're going to be sitting like that with a full bench of stuff that is almost good enough, basically. Right. But how many times we've seen in the lobbies, the meme mech guy is answered by the meme mech as well. Will hold hands in 7th and 8th.
Well, Kiyoon was in the chat saying meme mech. When I say the chat, I meant the Giant Slayer Twitch chat. He was in there saying meme mech, so he clearly knows what he wants to play, and I think that perhaps it might be a delicious milk situation where
could be
he just keeps playing it, and eventually other people might just start pivoting off of it because they recognize that they also don't want to go 8th, and they just let him do it, and then that's how he can get some dubs.
See, I feel like on principle, you can't allow that because, people thought they could do that with Delicious Milk last week, and then he got 2 first place and a 2nd place with Mech Infiltrators. So I say stop the menace of Mech right now, contest it every time, take that 8th place. It's an honorable 8th, all right?
I suppose so. It's easy. It's very hard to say it in the
for
heat
the
of
greater
the moment,
good.
You really want to do well, but and honestly, like Mech Infiltrator, when it hits the 3 stars and it gets the right items, yes, it does feel like the best cops and quite unstoppable, but it does require a ton of setup. And there's a lot of times where people don't really hit it, and even when they do hit it, they don't stabilize enough, and they lose 1 fight and they die. Like Kiyoon was trying to stabilize at 9 life, and even if he does hit everything perfectly, a lot of times there's just some unfortunate fight RNG that happens, and like your units don't line up their ultimate in the right way, or perhaps you positioned for one person, you queue against somebody else, and they hit like their major power spikes. So we've seen a lot of like Mech Infiltrators who hit the perfect stuff and like get 6th, despite having like 4 3-star units.
Very true. And then on top of that, someday you have to tell your grandkids that you were a Mech Infiltrator player. So, that's nobody wants that. But I think we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, game number 2, we'll see if some of our players can come back, grab some points, if the people on top can stay there, if Rayditz can get his 6th top 4 in a row. A lot to look forward to, and we'll see you guys in just a few for game number 2. Welcome back, everybody, to Giant Slayer Series. One game in the books for now, and moving on very soon to game number 2. But first, a special thank you to Juked, who is sponsoring the show now. Of course, if you type exclamation point QS or GSS, I'm used to saying QSS now, but exclamation point GSS in chat, you can get a link that goes to the page that has all the player point of views and all the schedule stuff and all the VOD stuff. It's got everything. So that is your one-stop shop. That is what you want to bookmark if you're interested in watching this tournament. And thanks for Juked for putting that all together. It's a great site in general. I pretty much only go there to find esports events now.
Yeah, and if you type exclamation point QSS in chat, you'll be immune to bans for 15 seconds.
That's right, but only 15 seconds. So get the copy pasta in while you can. Yeah. So game number 1, we saw the Jace carry first place comp. Pretty amazing. Let's take a look at the scores actually from the first game. Souless, of course, getting that first place. Gunmay, a close second, of course. But one of the big stories, I think, Rayditz with his 5th top 4 finish in a row, which is a lot of points overall.
Right, and we're going to be, keeping a rolling tally of their points week over week, and we'll be picking the best players based off their performance and ranking, seeding it into a finals on week 4. So, lots more TFT to play, and for now, we're going to have to see who goes back to the drawing board or who continues to stay the course. For now, Souless, Gunmay, Soju, and Rayditz, they don't really have to change much. For Fluffy and the rest of the crew, though, they do have to pick it up just a little bit because they can't really just keep placing bottom 4, even though it does get them a few points here and there.
Yeah, bottom 4 is much worse than top 4, obviously. So I'm curious to see what we're going to see about game number 2. Mech Infiltrator, I think, is generally the big story these days. Who's going to play it, who's going to try to contest it. Basically, you're kind of just like flexing and saying, all right, I'm going to assert my dominance on this lobby and just play Mech Infiltrators anyway. And will people be able to get away with it? Will Kiyoon be able to just play it, or will someone contest it, and will they go down together in flames?
Yeah, I think the difficulty is just when you can catch the knife. It's a terminology that I really like using when you're losing intentionally. You're streaking, you're just open forwarding, you're selling everything, trying to eco up. While it's good for the consistency of getting your gold, there is that challenge that you don't hit that power spike in time, which Kiyoon and Agon both needed. So if they do choose to go for the intentional losing streak, as almost everybody is piling on for this chain vest here, and looks like Kiyoon got it. So Kiyoon, once again, might be trying to go for that Mech Infiltrator build to start things off.
I mean, this definitely gives you the leeway to type me Mech in chat, so we'll see.
That I don't believe any item that you get off the chat disqualifies you from typing mech in chat.
It's a state of mind. You know, mech is a state of being, basically.
That's right.
Yeah.
You don't
All right.
type. One doesn't simply type mech.
One becomes mech. One lives mech. As a Star Guardian one trick, I can tell you, like you become the comp. You become one with the comp.
That's good. That's good. That was a great.
I am a Star Guardian now.
Exactly. DoA's been killing it with the Star Guardian climb lately.
So it hasn't stopped yet, so we'll see. Masters or bust. On board with Souless now as he does some of the early rounds. Finds an early Nico's help. That's exciting.
Yeah, you know, the early Nikos, when you're not playing a Nicoverse, makes me start thinking about which 4-cost unit I want to start building around. I find that trying to fizz. I find that trying to use Nikos to get like a 3-star unit isn't super reliable because that happens a lot later versus the Nico helps you power spike way earlier.
Right.
But maybe they come around online around the same time, and I could be overestimating how powerful it is to get the 4-cost unit to a 2-star.
Kind of depends on if you hit like 2 of the 4-cost really early, you know? I mean, if you roll like a couple, for instance, if you roll a couple early Fizz, then yeah, use the Nikos to do it. But, all right.
Souless messed up. He actually was trying to buy the Leona, and he clicked it, but he clicked it half a microsecond too slow, and so he didn't actually get it.
Yeah, missing out on the 2 Vanguard start now, which is pretty rough.
Yeah, and you know, if
Could
he
be rough
needs
later.
a 4th Vanguard, or if he finds 2 other Cybernetics, he'll be sad.
Yeah, I think so. Do you think there's a chance he may... whoa, emotes everywhere. Oh my gosh. It's an
DoA,
emote
if
explosion.
casting before wasn't hard...
Yeah, I didn't think it was
will
hard
try
enough to
casting
cast.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's emote pixelation, not just regular pixelation. There we go. Okay, it's gone. We're safe. So is there ever a universe where you go for a rebel start here? He had the Sona option in the shop, but it looks like he picked that up and sold it, if I deduce that between all the emotes.
Yes.
You've got the Yasuo too, so there it is. All right. Yeah, so I suppose, especially because he missed out on that Leona, so he's not going to have the opportunity for an early Cybernetics, not going to have the early Vanguard. This is going to suddenly be your strongest synergy to go with if you want to try to win streak.
And it looks like Souless is somewhat committed to it. He's hovering the gloves over just in case he might need it, feeling like he's probably going to lose anyways.
Yeah, I think so.
He's right. Does he want the second Ziggs over the...
That's what I was wondering.
Like...
Over this, yeah. He's leaving it open for a 2 Sork. Or an early 2-star Zoe, too. There's another Zoe. Will he take the Mord, though? Yeah, because now we can go back to a 4 or 2 Vanguard, rather. And that's generally a little bit stronger and a little bit more versatile than the Rebel start, since you need 3 Rebels and you only need 2 Vanguards. And then you can kind of build other synergies like Chrono or Sorcerer around that.
Yeah, Vanguards are just very versatile. They just pretty much are good for any kind of opening. I think you can almost justify any composition in the game starting off with Vanguards just to help you get early game going.
They're like Knights, they're like Wardens. They're just your solid standard tanky early game if you're familiar with the other sets. I like that he's keeping the Malphites, though, actually, because that does leave him open to a possible Brawlers transition if he wants to go for possibly the Void build, possibly Brawler Blaster, although he doesn't have any Blasters yet. Keeping the Malphites, I think, is important because it does keep your synergy options open at very little cost. And he does find the 2-star Malphite, too, and that's just kind of a beefy front line to put in there.
Yeah, you know, I like that you called it out. I think that Blitzcrank Malphite openings are also very versatile. You
Definitely.
can start off snowballing with a bunch of health and even disruption, which is very powerful.
Speaking of
Checking in
Blitzcrank,
with Agon. Agon has that early red buff and trap claw. Wow, talking about slamming items.
Yeah, well, two items that, well, at least a trap claw anyway, something that's pretty useful all game long. Red buff, if you do find that Lucian, which it looks like he's kind of holding out for it, is going to be pretty good. Either way, it's not terrible. And it looks like he'll probably get the win in this round anyway, despite that 2-star Leona on the other side.
Is he not going to make gold? Interesting. I
Huh.
guess because he does have a pair on the bench, which is pretty solid with the Leonas.
Right.
And if he does end up going for cybernetics, he's going to need that Leona anyways. So bit of a unfortunate start for Agon. I think he actually got the worst end of that, which is like he didn't lose streak, and he doesn't have the interest gold heading to this carousel.
So now you kind of just have to hope to win streak, basically, to just make anything out of this situation. Couple tiers left on the carousel right now. Let's see what he goes for. This is the tier. No, he is going to maybe grab... It's going to be the belt, the bow, or the cloak.
Yeah, so this kind of indecision, I think, is very reflective of Agon being caught in limbo. And it's
Right.
exactly what we talked about. He wasn't low enough to get first pick of what he wanted. He's not win streaking, and he doesn't have that gold economy. I was almost like willing to take a 3-cost unit off the carousel just to have the most amount of gold to get back into it. It's almost kind of like you make up that interest lost for picking a 3-cost unit, sometimes over a 2-cost. But if
I think a lot of times, if you're high up in the, if you're like late in the carousel pick order and there's not a lot to choose from item-wise, that little bit extra gold can certainly help you make econ. Like it.
Yeah, and I think making gold is like a big priority
Early,
for
yeah.
Agon here. I would be very surprised if he just does not make econ here whatsoever.
Interesting. So opts for a second blitzcrank just for maximum disruption here. That's going to be so annoying to deal with. And now, speaking of more gold, man, he's got the Space Pirates going, and that's a Scary Graves blaster via Ezreal as well. And it's he's running into a very tanky line. He's running into a Lucian with Infinity Edge on the other side. And unfortunately for him, that's going to be a little bit too much to handle.
Oof.
Yeah, that's I think that's the blaster he was looking for.
Yep, he has blasters, and he does have one brawler. Wow, super rough spot here for Agon. But hey, I mean, maybe he's able to pick up some amazing items off the Krugs.
That's certainly possible.
Can make it up for the next carousel, because it looks like he's going to be struggling for a while.
So he's also got the Cassidon as well, which means that he did pick up Mana Reaver, which did get more powerful in the last patch. So that's something that can allow you to maybe eke out just a couple of round wins and keep that HP just a little bit higher, which is going to be probably the goal right now. Runs into a Chrono Sorcerer setup from Souless on the other side, it looks like. And how's this going to go? It's tough to make money from Space Pirate when your Space Pirates are dying, but it looks like he may be able to win this one. Actually, no, I take it back. Looks like Chrono Caitlyn rather, is going to win the day. 2-star Caitlyn does recover from her ultimate a little bit quicker now too. So she's a little bit better earlier than she was.
Finds the Lucian. Probably has to replace that stuff. Looks like he's just going to transition, try to see if he can find a way to get the blasters in. Meanwhile, Fluffy checking in with him. What's he got going on?
Let's see. He's got...
Does he have an early game Kale?
He's looking at Kiyoon right now, and he does not appear to have the Kale that I can see. Maybe it died early on.
Oh no, sorry.
I don't think so.
It says Vanguard, not Valkyrie. I was like, what? How is that even possible?
It's tough to read. I hear you.
Yeah. I apologize. No, Cybernetics Vanguard, very common starting block.
That would have been insane to get an early Kale like that, though, especially.
Yeah. Well, that's game winning considering that he has like Rage Blade and Morello.
He like secretly dipped into the Lavender Galaxy or Lilac Galaxy rather, and snagged one.
I mean, it's not even possible to get it. You have 0%.
No, it's not. Yeah, that's why I was heading over to the other galaxy really quick, you know. But yeah, just Cybernetic Vanguard for now. Item on the Lucian, item on the Fiora 2. He's got the Jace. He's gonna go ahead and build the Ionic Spark actually.
Yeah, because he has red buff and can put it on Lucian as well. I think he's recognizing that probably best for him to start using these items.
Yeah, probably.
The problem is both Khroen and Gunmay looked like they were also playing Cybernetics. Also, Agon had started building some blasters, and that also incidentally takes up things like Lucian. So we might have like a lobby where half the people are contesting each other for the same units. And then you might get like one person that's re-rolling that ends up hitting everything because everyone else is thinning the pool out, trying to contest the same units and ignoring whatever else the person might be trying to go for.
Pretty much. That's one of the dangers of playing the cybernetics opening, is that because there's a lot of ways you can pivot out of it and a lot of different compositional directions you can go, once in a while you just kind of all end up going the same direction, you know, rather than one person going Blade Masters, one person going Blasters, you know, everyone just kind of goes for the same thing.
True, but at the same time, I think that's where this composition really shines. Cybernetics can support 3 people playing Cybernetics at its core, because you can choose to itemize in a different way.
You just have to recognize what somebody else is hitting a little bit better on and move away from that, you know?
Right.
Some guy gets like the item or a 2-star of something that you want before you get it. You have to think, well, maybe it's time to move away, and maybe it's time to think about that as well, as Khroen actually gets the win over Fluffy in that round.
Yeah, and Khroen's on an insane win streak. In fact, it's kind of silly that at this point Khroen and Gunmay have not played each other at this by now, and they've played everybody else in the lobby. I believe they've played. I believe they've played everybody else except each other, really.
Well, somebody's gonna have to do it eventually. Carousel round coming up after this one, and everything resets after the neutral rounds, I believe. So
I'm particularly intrigued by Fluffy's position here, because people have largely believed that Cybernetics is a win streak composition, in that Cybernetics is primarily a function of the power is primarily a function of the win streak early game. And they say very often that if you're lose streaking, or you're like not able to get off to a very quick start by over leveling compared to your opponents, Cybernetics is at its weakest. So I want to see if Fluffy can find a way to get into that top 2, top 3 that we know Cybernetics can do with such a poor start, and also the fact that other people are contesting it. It might spell doom for Fluffy, but for now, I'm waiting to see if he can do it.
Well, it's definitely going to be tricky, like you said, because you kind of need to be win streaking with Cybernetics to get that early level 8, and ideally get the Echo before anyone else has a chance to get in there and contest it. So if you're lose streaking, you're going to be leveling slower, so it's going to put you farther and farther away from getting that 6 cybernetic synergy up and running. It's going to be tough. On board with Khroen now as our second place person. 3 cybernetic, 3 blade master, 2 chronos. So opting for the blade master side of things.
Yeah, that does tend to lean more towards a KO composition. Looks like he does have a KO in his pocket.
He's also got Void in his pocket as well. He's just looking for the Vel'Koz, but he is primed and ready to possibly swap over to a Void comp. And in fact, I would wager that he wants to go Void, and he's just kind of using Cybernetics and has just happened to hit a nice win streak with it. He's got the Seraphs on Fiora. Like, this is looking like a Void comp late game.
Absolutely. The fact that he has all those Voids on the bench, the fact that he has QSS on his Lucian, and the what looks like a Seraphs on the Fiora.
Yeah, it's a Seraphs.
Heavily implies that he's going to be switching over to a Vel'Koz carry build.
True enough. Seems that way. Just got to start hitting some of the 2-stars for stuff. In the meantime, though, he's having no trouble like dominating this lobby at the moment, which is such a good feeling, because you have everybody thinking one direction, and of course they're looking at your bench and they're seeing what you kind of have planning, but they also have to address what's right in front of them as well, with what you're threatening with right at the moment, you know. So being able to pick up this stuff, having the luxury of picking up this Void stuff on the side while also win streaking and staying as high HP as Khroen is right now is a really nice spot to be in. So now Khroen just checking out the other boards, seeing what the competition looks like. Just pausing for a while on Souless's board, as he's kind of wondering if there might be a Void contest there. I don't think so, but there are a few suspicious pieces there. One wonders, wow, that is if that Lucian was 2-star, it would be very scary. It's still scary enough as 1-star, but not enough.
Yeah. The true threat under Khroen's composition is if his Kale goes unanswered. And, you know, Kale 1 is largely to believe to be sometimes even more effective than Kale 2 in terms of her place during the stages. By the time you can get Kale 2 consistently, a lot of other people have their compositions online. And therefore, Kale 2 it's a significant power spike, right? I'm not going to try to tell you KO1's better than KO2. There's just no way.
Stat for stat, no, of course not. But
relative to when you can get them into the game, an early KO1 as soon as like stage 3 can carry you to the end of stage 4.
Very true.
But KO2, we've seen people hit KO2 and still die.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on a lot of things, right? Because like you said, when you're hitting that KL2, it's at a point in the game where suddenly the backline is under a lot more threat, right? If you've got KL2, somebody else may have a Shaco 3 already, right? So it's a lot better to hit that super early 5% chance KL1 and just wreck people from the backline at a time in the game where they can't really threaten as much. Thinking about the Jinx here. Could add blasters in instead of Blade Master, but it does find another Kale.
Yeah, I think he's purely holding Jinx to try to reduce the pool to find Vel'Koz. I don't think he plans on keeping Jinx.
That's
does not find anything. That was really poor series of rolls here for Khroen. Very unfortunate.
It does hurt, but at least he can cry into his strong kill composition for now. I mean, that Fiora too is just going to be wrecking people as well.
Yeah, I like the Thief's Gloves as well as a temporary stopgap until he finds anything. And you know what? There's a chance that he just ends up finding like more Kales and just plays Kale 2 for a while until he finds his Void Sorcerers.
Yeah, you don't even need to really follow through with the Void because you're not taking up that many slots on your bench. So why not,
This is probably the most interesting part of the game for me when I look at it, because a lot of people end up splitting the decision making around stage 4 too. Is when people say they want to start gearing up for a level 8 or they start rolling down, and it looks like Khroen, he rolled 20 gold and chose to not roll as a follow up because he's comfortable with his power level. So the decision becomes, when does Khroen roll, or does he even roll? If he starts winning streaking, does he even change anything? Or does he just go to fast 8 instead?
Yeah, I mean, and you saw him pick up the Lux as well. And a lot of times if you go to 8 and you're running the Void comp, you want to either ideally have a TF in there, but if you can't find the TF, you put in the Lux for the Sorcerer buff to go with Vel'Koz and also a little bit of extra CC. So he's kind of laying the groundwork for Void at level 8 if that's the direction he ends up going. Looks like Lucian's not going to be enough to win this one. Live for a long time, but...
Yeah, Lucian tried to 1v3 the mechs.
I've seen Lucians do that, but not that Lucian. When Khroen was looking around to other people's boards earlier, he did see a Vel'Koz 2. Yeah, it's actually going to be Souless that has the Vel'Koz 2 already, which is definitely a problem if you're Khroen, because you really want to pivot into Void, but someone else who already has picked up 3 of the Vel'Koz presents a bit of a threat. He does have Nico's, though, so I suppose he can kind of like cheat one out, but it doesn't. The Void is feeling a little bit worse now than it was after Khroen looked at some of the other boards here. So let's see. Runs into, I didn't quite see who the opponent was quite yet with that. Added in the Cho'Gath as well to get a little bit more AoE, but Cho'Gath dies before he gets the ult, so it doesn't really matter. And man, now you've got the Aurelia online on the other side, and this is where the Cybernetics comp of Gunmay is going to come in a lot stronger, actually, than what Khroen has to offer at the moment. So we'll see what he decides to go with now. Still in second place with 69 HP, so he's not at the end of his rope right yet. Got a lot of hit points to burn with, and this is one of those situations where you kind of take a deep breath and you're like, I can spend my HP like I would spend gold, right? It's also another resource you can spend to get later in the game. We'll see what he ends up choosing, though. He is late picking the carousel, which is rough. It feels bad to have that after losing so much, I guess he finds the Aurelia, though.
Aurelia can just be nice, but looks like it had that rod, which is ultimately really important to get onto the Vel'Koz if he ever finds Vel'Koz. If Vel'Koz is even in set 3 at this point, I don't even think Khroen even knows.
That's what you wonder, right? Like there's those games where you just cannot find the unit for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Moving over to Soju now.
Yeah.
So Soju...
Soju's been a big fan of Cybernetics and Kale lately.
Yeah.
Seems like the 2 compositions he's been specializing in the most.
Well, he's got a strong Aurelia at the moment, has the Kale too. No items on her just yet, but I like the little additions of like Celestial and Brawler in here. It's just a very overall all-around strong comp. This is the style that Rayditz was playing a lot last week, building things like this to just take those consistent top fours. That said, Soju is an 8th, so he needs to pick it up now. And it doesn't look like he's going to do that this round. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's not a good sign when you have all your gold roll down before the last Raptors to see.
No.
It looks like this is really bad spot here for Soju. He's trying to find any way to stabilize, and it doesn't look like he has much going on, unfortunately.
Just also a little bit too much HP. And he
Also
just
too
doesn't
much
have a
HP.
ton of items either. That's the interesting thing. Yeah. Because he's got he actually went for the celestial spatula item just to give his team a little bit more healing and a little bit more sustain. But it's rough right now.
Well, I mean, this is one of the hardest positions to be in, which is a cybernetics player that doesn't find Echo. And
Right.
he's got 2 cybernetics on the bench that he would love to put in, but it's until he finds that 1-star Echo, he is sitting duck. Looks like he's gonna survive to see his items.
Yeah, staying alive for now.
Okay.
And Rayditz on the verge of being eliminated early for the first time ever in the Giant Slayer series, down at 7th place right now, going into Arc Raptors. So for Soju, what are you looking for here? You're looking for just something to maybe power up the Aurelia a little bit more, like a GA or something like that. Something to maybe make the front line a little bit tankier.
I think at this point he'll just take anything. Like
Probably.
Usually,
Lucky
if you
Echo.
could just pick the items you'd want, I'd probably say that another IE or Last Whisper would be great.
Right.
Whoa, interesting stuff.
Okay. Huh.
I don't think he can use
So-
the spatula very effectively. He can make a protector, he can make a rebel, he can make a demolitionist. Wait, he finds a gangplank.
Huh. So I
Whoa,
wonder.
Hold on.
Yeah, he's thinking about it right now. Do you maybe do a little bit of swapping and add in demolitionist on the Kale? Exactly. That's what you do. Take out the MF, put in the GP, maybe.
Soju is trying to browse his brain through all of the thousands of TFT games he's played in his lifetime, and thinking, like, how do I pivot into this?
Oh, just do it.
How do I
Slam the
adapt?
items. Make that GP as tanky as you possibly can right now. And
How
will
many
it be enough?
synergies can I finish this game with?
Yeah, demolitionist Kale can get a lot done, and yes, he's filling all the synergies. 8 so far.
Wow.
Demolitionist Kale gets a lot of stuns, man.
It
MF
does.
just almost forgotten about. That's gonna win him the round actually against Khroen.
And I think the very important thing was that he transitioned the Ionic Spark onto Gangplank as well, which is very important to get to the reduction. Is there any other way that he can improve this? It's tough because I think Irelia has the mana item, and you definitely want that mana item onto somebody else as well.
Yeah,
Irelia
you
is
can't
still
move it
very
off
good.
in Aurelia too, though, at the moment. And yeah, like you just said, she does good damage. You've got the Mana Reaver, of course, with Cassidon as well. What you really need to do right now is make sure that Kale does not get pulled, does not get Zephyr'd. She is your ticket to survival right now. Because one loss is going to be the end of the road pretty much for Soju. I think in 99% of situations right now.
Yes, that's what it looks like to be 16 life. This
Yeah,
is
16.
a precarious situation, to say the least. But he is turning it around very slightly, but not enough.
Not enough. No, the Jinx carry just too strong. But he lives. He lives with 3 HP. Just barely staying in there.
There's the Echo.
Yep. Okay. So you go, you try to go, oh no, he sold it. He's actually
He's
committing
all
to
in
this
on
because
this. Yep.
we've seen people, I don't know, have you ever seen anyone go demolitionist Echo? How does that interaction work? I've never actually seen that, I don't think. Because he
I
already
imagine
pauses
that-
things. Do you get a stun after that then? I've never
Yeah,
actually seen that.
I imagine it works similar to most demolitionists. Just that it'll stun the moment they ult, but I don't know if it counts against the time it takes for him to ult.
That's what I'm wondering, if you still get the stun time after the Echo ult is done. Question for another lobby, but the Kale gets grabbed. Oh no. Dies before really being able to do much of anything. MF not adding a lot of damage, but it looks like it might be enough. The Aurelia coming through.
Oh, and he stayed alive. He ended up eliminating his opponent, and now is at 7th place. Who did he kill?
Yeah, Fluffy out in 8th. Wow.
Oh my goodness. He sees a bunch of really juicy items. There's a Death Cap. There's a Seraphs. Does he want that Seraphs? Does he want that death cap for the Gangplank?
I mean, the question: does the Gangplank live long enough to really utilize it? I think that's the question.
Right. Ideally, you would have Guardian Angel, but so you can guarantee the Gangplank ultimate.
Yeah.
Very weird composition here from Soju. There's 2 other players that are also very low in HP. If you can squeeze into a 5th, I would call this a win for Soju. He was in a terrible spot. He was in a terrible spot. He had a bunch of really weak units. Did not have his Echo for the longest time, despite rushing to 8.
He is basically like, driving through the desert right now. Oh, he puts it on the rally. He's driving through the desert right now. Like his car is broken down like 6 times. Things are held together with like duct tape and like bits of cactus and stuff, but somehow he's still rumbling along.
Oh gosh.
For how long? This is why I pick a board where I can run far away, so that if the last battle happens to happen on my board, I can give myself as much time to sneak in an extra spot.
Yes, you get to pay.
There you go. He knows it.
Oh, very fortunate outcome here for Soju. There was a chance that his Irelia was going to get Zephyr, I think, based off that repositioning, but
possibly. That is a strong Kale, though. Oh, Kale via Kale. MF still around. Demolitionist Kale not getting the stuns she quite needs. And yeah, Soju fleeing to the edge of his board, goes out in 7th. Couldn't quite get the 6th or higher. Souless won his round, actually. So stayed in it. And now moving over to Kiyoon, who has a Rumble 3. So
Rumble 3, a
Mech is working.
3,
Wow.
A Shake.
Demolitionist Kaisa 3 even.
Yeah. Kiyoon stayed the course. Agon chose to do something else, and Kiyoon was uncontested with the mech, it looks like.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
It's funny how you can do this. And maybe it's just me, but I feel like in set 3, you can force comps with more consistent results than you could in set 2. Maybe that's a reflection of my set 2 play versus my set 2-3, but it feels a lot easier to do this in set 3. What do you think? Do you think I'm totally off with that?
2 3-star units?
No, to just force a comp.
Oh.
With success.
In
set 3 versus
I think that's
set
a really
2.
interesting debate. I would say that it's been universally like really easy to force comps in TFT. Compared to, say, other games like Auto Chess, which are in the same genre.
Yeah.
Or even if you want to take a more abstract look at things like Hearthstone Battlegrounds. For
Sure.
the most part, I would say TFT is definitely the auto battle that feels like you can force comps the most.
And you still have to adapt a little bit, but there's enough room to do that unless like there's 3 or more people going for what you're going for.
Yeah, and I think that when you say force comps, it's because you can still play the comp. Does that mean you win, have success all the time? Maybe not.
Yeah,
but,
forcing a comp doesn't mean winning every time. It means just playing that comp every time and ideally top 4ing, right? Getting consistent results. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We see Kiyoon going for the Fizz 3 attempt.
Yeah,
Fizz
why
3
not?
just feels like overkill. When you get Fizz 3, there's just no chance you lose. But at the same time, I've seen crazier things happen.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, the right Zephyr in the right place, the positioning. I suppose his mech is got QSS, but little things can make a big difference sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Going into action against Souless, it looks like
shutting down the Vel'Koz.
Yeah, well,
super big.
Vel'Koz gets a second ult off, but just barely, and not going to be enough. Yeah. Mech broken, but Kiyoon is not, and it looks like Souless going to get eliminated. Did he get eliminated in 4th? So Souless manages to finish in the top 4 at least, but he is out. So only 2 remain now. Just Gunmay versus Kiyoon.
Gunmay hits the Echo 2.
Yep.
And the roll down to see if we can get this 3-star Fizz and 3-star Annie. Very unlikely, but Kiyoon at least tried. I like that he's not committing super all in because he still does have an opportunity to go to level 8 and instead play some of those other things. But one thing that's really important is that in these late game situations, especially when it's 1v1, your opponent can position and capitalize on your mistakes. So if you're going to roll in the late game, you definitely want to still leave yourself out 5 seconds to position at least.
Right, definitely. try to predict what they're going to do in the very end. Echo coming online. Now, the Echo only has a GA, so he's not going to be putting out as much damage as some other Echoes do, but it still is Echo 2, which is strong. And so far, so good for Gunmay. Yeah, gets the win. And Gunmay's comp just a little bit stronger right now. Due to maybe the 2-star Echo, the Aurelia, weathering the storm of the infiltrators for now. Doesn't really need the Lux 2, of course. Still has a lot of gold to work with. And so Kiyoon can kind of take a couple rounds and sort of analyze this, right? Lose a little bit of HP to sort of get a better read on Gunmay and what Gunmay's plan is positioning-wise.
Well, specifically, Gunmay is just trying to have Irelia intercept the Kaisa, because then the Mana Reaver shuts off her ability, and then you just immediately give her. So,
yep. And she doesn't have a GA, so she's not coming back.
Oh no!
Well, she killed the Shaco, so that's something. But yeah, you need to try to deny the stun from the Demolitionist. Echo comes through. There's the mech popped, and it looks like things are going okay for Gunmay. That Lucian in the back as well, just untouched with the red buff. And the funny thing is the Infiltrator's Talons on Lucian keeps him pretty safe because they're playing against Infiltrators. So they'll just switch sides, basically, and then Lucian gets a free sort of like safe spot to hit people with the red buff. That's kind of funny.
Then you can't get CC'd.
Yeah, am I mistaken in seeing that his really has a bramble vest on it?
I didn't expect it to like hold.
Trying to see. We're in a carousel round, so we can't see the items at the moment. The Aurelia has, bramble vest, Infinity Edge, and GA. You're right.
If that's the case, then Gunmay is brilliant. I mean, perhaps this is something that you see a lot. It's just that it's a really great move because you will stop Shaco from being able to crit, and I think that Bramble Vest also just makes Irelia a little bit tankier enough to perhaps survive that early game burst.
Right. I'd be curious to know when he built that on the Aurelia, because if you build it too early, you're kind of hedging your bets that your Aurelia is going to run into a lot of things that are going to crit her in exchange for a little bit less damage on it. But against Mech Infiltrator, it's crazy.
Oh no, this is
Ooh, she does get stuck on the mech.
Yeah.
And that Kaisa doing a lot of damage. Yeah, that's right. So Aurelia will just kind of get stuck on that. But and it looks like that is a big difference. So this is something you really need to avoid. Yeah, if the Aurelia gets stuck on a high HP target, then everything else that she would have assassinated just gets to run around and kill stuff, which is exactly what we saw.
It's also what we were talking about just moments before, that Gunmay was so focused on like how he wanted to roll down and think about his composition that he wasn't thinking about positioning, and quite frankly, he just got out positioned there.
Yeah.
And these are the moments where I think a lot of the best players in the world, they really have strong opinions on how they're supposed to be playing this. So it's very curious to see. I'm very curious to see how it's going to pan out.
This is my favorite part of TFT is the 1v1s and people trying to out mind game each other positioning wise. Aurelia walking up, she manages to find the shot on the Kazakhs in the back. It's an early execute. Now jumping onto the Kaisa, got hit with a Lulu ultimate too. And that said, the mech just still maybe a little bit too strong. Wow, just couldn't bust through the mech there. And that is near perfect mech items right now. Probably pretty perfect against the Cybernetics comp anyway, with all the AD damage coming in.
Totally. One thing to note is that I think that Gunmay outthought him. He played himself, essentially. He put Misfortune up because he thought the Infiltrator would jump back. But Shaco does have, I believe, a rapid fire cannon, which allows him to double his attack range and effectively make 2 hex tiles away. So what Kiyoon did was he played the Shaco just 1 hex back from the front row, and that ended up having him auto-attack the Misfortune, which is effectively what he wants to do anyways.
Interesting.
So had Gunmay actually just left the Misfortune just a little bit further back like he was playing anyways, that wouldn't have happened, and perhaps the Shaco would have jumped into Aurelia, and Aurelia wouldn't have had as minimal impact as she did.
Could be, yeah. I thought he was going to have a good Aurelia turn where she got the kill on the Kazakhs really early and then turned to the Kaisa, but no, not quite enough.
Trap Claw is massive. That's going to stun Kaisa from her ability.
Yep.
So there's also an ability that you can do a Trap Claw very similar to Zephyr, where you can place a Trap Claw right before they ultimate, and then you're going to stop them from, you'll be able to stun them, guaranteed.
Yeah.
God damn it, dude.
Shaco in the back onto the Jinx right now. does get stopped up for just a moment.
Yeah, and Irelia is stuck on the mech again. This is looking like a mech victory. It looked pretty promising for Gunmay,
It is,
but it's just not going to be enough.
It's fine.
Kiyoon gets the win with Mech
GG.
Infiltrator.
Wow. So
Poor performance in game 1.
just like week number 1, we saw, a not mech infiltrator comp manage to win game number 1, but game number 2 was all mech infiltrators. So we'll see if it holds true. And mech infiltrator is just the one that goes in and infiltrates the 4 games we have and wins 2 and 3 each week. We'll see. But another game coming up shortly to see if these players can shake up the standings a little bit more. Let's take a look at our current scores and see where everybody is sitting at right now. After 2 games, Souless is tied with Gunmay for number 1 in today's point value, 16 apiece for them, Kiyoon with 12. Rayditz with 10. So taking the lowest finish, a 5th place finish, he finally finished out of the top 4. It took 6 games to do it, but it still gives him 4th place overall in the current point standings among these players at 10 on the day. So still fairly consistent, although maybe slipping a little bit.
Yeah, I would say that this definitely wasn't the best game for Rayditz, but still overall playing pretty solidly with that cybernetics KO core. I definitely think that Gunmay, despite the fact that it looked like he had an opportunity to win that game, still played very well. Those situations are so easy for the onlooker to pick apart what they did wrong, but there's also a lot of things that they're doing right, and they're also like calculating so much. And also, it's like it's real time. You're watching decisions your opponents make, and then you have to respond to it.
Right.
I had a game today where it was an all Zephyr carousel in the middle, and then I built a natural Zephyr, and then for my last carousel item, I got another Zephyr, and I put it on Blitzcrank. So I had Blitzcrank positioning, I had 3 Zephyr positionings, I had my KO that I was trying to protect, and I'm trying to keep an account like where they're playing their mana reavers. There's just a lot going on in the late game.
Yeah.
So
well, that's why I was saying the 1v1 at the game
so much to consider.
Is so much fun. Yeah, because you've got a million different things to think about. And you're also thinking as well, is there anything I can do to improve my composition? Because there's always those tiny little things you can do. Maybe it's not even necessarily another star unit, but maybe you put in a 1-star of something else to give you some sort of synergy that in that particular situation is what it takes to get the win. So it was an extended 1v1, but Mimek getting the win again. Let's see if that continues as we jump into game number 3. And here we have our carousel on board with Kiyoon right now, who is currently 3rd on the day in terms of points.
I like his little his match history ticker on the top, where he's talking about the Giant Slayer series. And
Held Agon's hand.
7 because he held Agon's hand to a bottom 2.
Mimek, we hold hands, go 7 and 8.
Yes, I think that is an excellent summary of Kiyoon's event so far. Mech only, and the scary thing about a player like Kiyoon is that you just know that he won't deviate. So it's like you can try to bottom 2 with him, or you can try to beat him, and you're most likely going to be unsuccessful.
Yep, you can either fight him, or you can just sort of, let him have what he wants, and just try to beat him in his own game. Mech players can be beaten. I know it's hard to believe sometimes, but it is possible.
Yes,
Kiyoon,
and mech players can a lot of times beat themselves as well, because some of them they will pull the trigger too fast. You have the number one thing that you have to be willing to do is exactly what Kiyoon is, which is drop to sometimes single points of digits of health. And from there, try to pick it up. I've seen a lot of people say, I'm at 50 life. That's too few because everyone else is like 70 plus. I'm going to start rolling. And I think that compromises their ability to win the game. They might be able to sneak into like a top 4 because they like somehow salvaged enough life, but they really like lose LP over time by doing.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I think a lot of that decision making, especially for newer players, comes down to really understanding when the power spikes of the composition they're trying to play are. And sometimes when you play a composition, you just have to accept that at a certain round, you're not going to win very many fights because other compositions that are popular are power spiking. Then yours might not power spike. Using Star Guardians as an example, because it's pretty much all I play. In round 3, you're going to be like winning a round, losing a round, and you might go on a loss streak in round 3, and that's okay because that's not when you're going to be the strongest. So if you can kind of shore up the HP as much as you can, you don't need to freak out and roll down right away to try to stabilize right at that moment because you'll sacrifice your economy too much for the late game. So knowing when your composition power spikes and being okay with losing HP is crucial. And you see so many mech infiltrator players, like you're talking about, go down to like sub 20 HP sometimes and then come back and win the lobby because they know their limits, right? It's important.
I would say so. When you say they know their limits, I would say that, yes. Wow, Kiyoon pinging to alert the rest of the lobby. I have 2 Kaises already.
2 Kaises. Andy also found the Jace as well. So food for thought as we move over to Souless's POV here.
Souless,
and
like
interesting.
Early Seraphs ready to go. So the moment you find Syndra, you
Yeah.
can start transitioning fully into the Star Guardian Sorcerer builds.
Yeah, me Star Guardian. And everyone else is like, that's totally fine. We don't want to play it. Oh, he got his cards off right before he died. That's super nice for TF. That helped him win the round a little bit there. But good start. I mean, finding the Nico early is a great feeling if you're thinking about going Star Guardians. Putting it in early is a different story. But it looks like if you don't hit some of the early Vanguards, you can kind of use that Nico and kind of corner stack things like he is a little bit. Yeah, there's the Poppy. So pretty good Star Guardian start. Like you said, especially because of that Seraphs.
Yeah, it feels like Star Guardians has been underrepresented relative to its strength. This is, I believe, the first Star Guardian game we'll see today, despite it being game 3.
Yeah, that's right.
Star Guardians feels relatively contested in some lobbies that I see being played. I think that's because I'm in Diamond and I'm not playing Challenger lobbies yet.
Yeah, could be.
We're gonna get there, DoA. But
yeah, man, we're on our way, right?
Yeah. For now, against my Diamond/Master lobbies, I see 2 people usually trying to go Star Guardians, so I think that's probably why I have that that feeling of it being underrepresented.
Yeah, I'm Diamond 3 at the moment, so I've got that same thing where it's sort of like a mix of low Masters and high Diamonds, and usually there's a lot of games where I'm the only person going Star Guardians, and there's other games where maybe one other person does, and then I just beat them in the 1v1, and then I walk up in front of them with a Mole Diver and do the grave digging emote, and then they switch off Star Guardians.
Nice.
You just have to assert your dominance, you know?
And it works every time?
Works every time. I mean, hey. So far, the results have been quite good. Played 4 games today. Took top 4. Won one of them. All games. So, yeah. Well, I'm not stopping now. We'll see what happens when I hit Masters. But in Diamond, at least, it's still working. I do have another account, by the way, that I do play normally on. But the Star Guardians experiment has been fun.
I'm sure it's a very powerful comp. The composition
it is underrated.
Likes to go for 3 stars on specifically Syndra, and ideally you can get it on Nico.
Yeah,
potentially Ari as well.
Lux is pretty good too, even though she's not a Star Guardian. She still puts out like a ridiculous amount of damage if you can 3-star and put a couple items on her.
Totally.
But yeah, Nico Syndra for sure.
Yeah, I usually determine if I'm going Star Guardians if I get 2 tiers early, but the real power of the composition outside the 3 stars is if you can get a 3rd tier, because then Syndra ults pretty much immediately, and then you're able to, like, yes, you can go for double Seraphs, which is like the ultimate, the build that you'd like to go, the Exodia items, if you will.
I think that's overkill personally now after testing it a bunch. I think 3 tiers is fine. I think double Seraphs is not necessary. But the funny thing is with the nerfs to tier coming in the next patch, even if you have 3 tiers on Syndra, she won't instant cast right away. She'll still have to do at least 1 auto. Same with Vel'Koz, I believe. So it's sad, but it's necessary. I don't necessarily disagree with that change.
Syndra is definitely a little too good when she gets all the mana items and she's at 3-star.
She's actually getting buffed though too. There's like a really important quality of life change they're making to her where they're increasing her attack range, supposedly in the notes we've seen. So right now, one of the issues you run into with Star Guardians is sometimes, depending on how your opponent's arranged and how you're arranged, she'll walk forward at the start of a fight and then just be in a really bad spot. And so now she'll do that less, which is actually huge. So I'm actually pretty happy with all the changes coming in as far as how that's going to affect Star Guardians, despite the tier nerfs.
I believe it.
Yeah. Checking out with Rayditz right now. Look at those
Right.
poppy items though. He's got the
Speaking
thieves
of-
gloves.
He has Star Guardians himself, but he doesn't look like he's lining up towards playing a full-on Star Guardian build. It seems like he just
Well-
happened to have Star Guardians in.
I think so, because he doesn't have any tier items. Ignore the gloves right now, and if you really want to play Star Guardians, you would prefer to save one of those gloves to try to make a QSS for Syndra. So yeah, I think you're right that it's sort of like a synergy of convenience at the moment, because this can be strong, especially with the early Lux right now. But yeah, probably not going that overall. At least it'd be risky with those starting items.
Yeah, I think that Rayditz is a cybernetics lover. Also, one thing that I'm noticing is Rayditz likes to write things down. That's kind of like a card game player habit. You have a lot of downtime between your turns, so you usually try to jot things down in case you need to remember them, like how many cards your opponent's played, or like other things that's kind of worth noting. And Rayditz is when it comes to competition, he takes it very seriously, both in and out of game. Pen and paper, that's old school, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, remember, he has not won any of our lobbies yet, but he's still been extremely consistent, finishing top 4 in 5 out of his 6 games, and that 6th one was just 5th. So he's not really had a bad game yet in this tournament, and certainly taking little notes like that. You can see him talking a little bit. A lot of players will talk to themselves, maybe talk to a stream too, but yeah, just doing every little thing to sort of give him that edge. So the fact that he's not buying that Nico right now kind of tells you that he's probably not planning on Star Guardians. You'd definitely be grabbing the Nico since you could still keep Econ going with this. Might just be waiting too, but he did get a tier. I don't know. Morello's is pretty good. You can definitely put that Thieves Love on Poppy is not a bad thing. I mean, I only see ways to go into Star Guardian, so ignore me. But yeah, he goes past it. He's also picking up cybernetics, of course, like you would expect Rayditz to do.
Yes, cybernetics still very good as a transition. I think that, one thing that maybe people don't think about when they look at Star Guardian Sorcerer is that it's also a very reliable early game composition just to kind of play and win streak. I think that's partially the appeal of it, is that the power level is relatively easy to get online and it gives you immediate results.
Yeah.
When you get things like cybernetics, you still have to kind of think about how you're going to itemize, or if you get 3 Dark Star, it's not going to do much early game. Yet the 3 Star Guardians early still is fairly impactful.
Yeah, it definitely does, especially if you can add an Ari in there. She's extremely good at just doing large swaths of damage to the enemy team. It's still it's strong, but it's not like a auto win streak comp. I think 4 Sorcerer early, if you can get that online at 5 with like 1 Vanguard and 4 Sorcerer, 3 Star Guardian, that can be one of the few ways you can kind of win streak during round 3. But yeah, making the swaps over to cybernetics, it looks like now.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening right in front of us. It's the fact that, he didn't have cybernetics in. He just kind of had pieces of cybernetics, but he was mainly using the Star Guardian core. And now, with this itemization, is going to keep this win streak going until he's able to hit the actual cybernetic news that he's looking for. So I think this is very clever, and also incidentally, because Souless was going for the Star Guardian composition, it does affect his roles as well.
Yeah, it does kind of annoy you a little bit if you can't land that 2-star Zoe or that 2-star Poppy early on. It's not necessary to have a good version of the build, but it is irritating. But, I think, honestly, like, the more I watch Rayditz, if you want a player to just study, to just get better at TFT, Rayditz just has such strong fundamentals of the game that I would watch this guy all day if I was just learning TFT. I'll probably watch this guy all day, even though I've been playing TFT a ton. He's just such a tight, thoughtful player.
Yeah, and I think that he's shown mastery over this cybernetics composition, which definitely one of the harder ones out there in the current meta game.
Right.
The question becomes: is it time to start transitioning out of the Star Guardian Sorcerer? And I'd argue yes. I don't think that Ari at 1 star without items is particularly very powerful.
Definitely.
He ends up
Not
going
at
back
3-3.
into it.
Huh. It's interesting. That is interesting because I think you're right overall. And the Ari is going to get grabbed here by the Blitzcrank, so she'll do even less. In fact, she'll probably just die. Yeah, exactly. So
Right.
might
There's a
have
Rage
benefited a bit
Blade
more.
onto the Zaya, and there's not a lot of splash, but at the same time, the Poppy is really clapping with the Thieves Glove.
Yeah, Poppy is I think Poppy is another one of those underrated units, right? If you look at some of the tier lists that the pros put out, Poppy is usually pretty high, whereas like the general TFT public, I think, doesn't necessarily think as highly of Poppy. But like you're seeing, you put a Thieves Gloves on her, and she can make really good use of those items in a pretty powerful way.
It's interesting.
Switching over to Fluffy now.
I wonder what the data says about that.
I would be curious. Yeah, I haven't seen any hard numbers on it, but just in terms of like feeling, having played a lot of games with Poppy, she's a lot stronger than I think a lot of people realize.
Totally.
Maybe people are still scarred from the whole Lolly Poppy thing, but you don't have to be afraid of Poppy. She's good. Just don't take her when I'm playing because I want all the poppies. Yeah, that's all I ask.
In terms of popularity, it looks like Poppy is up there. She gets played at around 13%, and the highest play rate is Kale at 28%. So, just kind of like in the middle of the pack. Seems like she's reasonably popular. You're saying that she should be played more.
I am, but I hesitate to say anything that takes away from my ability to just spam the same comp every game.
Fair enough.
3 Luxes in the shop.
When he's playing a Darkstar based composition.
Yeah, I know, right?
He has Vanguards.
You got to make room for these, right? Or I guess he's focusing on the Vanguard thing, but
yeah,
it's nothing you tell your grandkids about. That you saw 3 Luxes in the shop.
Man,
not as great as 3 Threshes in the shop with 15 gold, but it's up there.
Yeah, I look forward to 40 years from now when DoA is just telling his grandkids about every game of TFT he's ever played.
We're on like set 500 at that point, and I was like, I remember in set 3, I had 3 Luxes in the shop, and they're like, oh wow, was it Woodland Lux? And I'm like, no, you fool, that was set 2. They're like, oh, we need to study our TFT history, Grandpa.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's gonna be some great times, man.
I do miss the Lux from set 2. That was finding like the right Lux at just the right time was a singular pleasure.
Yeah, the Elementalist Lux was definitely one of the coolest designs for set 2 for sure.
I do hope we see things like that come into future sets. That'd be neat. But I wonder if we're seeing sort of a Jace carry plan here as well, where I know Mordekaiser has the items right now, but it's only a Mord 1. So if he hits that Jace 2, I wonder if you just put in your other Mord 1 and then swap the items over.
I don't think he gets the luxury of doing that.
You don't think so?
One thing that I noticed is that Fluffy is really low on life, and
oh, you're right, yeah.
He is also low on eco, so he doesn't have a chance to really 3-star stuff. So I think he's going with a traditional Jhin plan, which doesn't feel great.
I mean, he's got arguably the best Jhin items. We talked about this earlier, GA and Runins. If you're gonna put items on your Jhin, that's what you want to go with generally.
Yeah, and I think it's because Jhin does absurd amounts of auto attack damage. So the Runin's Hurricane, which hits nearby units for a percentage of the damage, still outputs insane DPS. So definitely a very nice thing. He finds an Infinity Edge?
Ooh, yeah. Finds the IE. Talk about perfect Jhin items. He's thinking about slamming it right away. I mean, you could make a couple other things. You can make a Hand of Justice. You can make a Shojin's, but
yeah,
I think you got to go with the IE. And yeah, he adds that right away.
Oh, yeah. The game's telling him.
Redemption on Mordekaiser? Yeah,
sure.
Okay, sure.
I think that's totally fine, largely because Mordekaiser is at 1 star and it's going to die pretty quick. And there's 2 benefits now. 1, Dark Star buff. 2, redemption.
Right. And Fluffy
wow.
still at level 7 right now too, so
Yeah.
be a little bit rough.
The Jin got instantly dunked by the Shaco, but the Shaco drew his attention elsewhere, and then the Jin was able to survive, showing you why that Guardian Angel is really important. And now Fluffy's on a win streak. Also,
mean,
Fluffy has
they're-
taken down his webcam, so I think he's getting really serious.
Doesn't want anyone to see his serious face. I see. So with Jin as well, you're right. You need the GA on the Jin because he just dies too quickly in a lot of other situations where he's jumped on by an infiltrator, he's one shot by a Syndra or something. So, but once that happens, the aggro's off if he comes back with GA, and you can jump back into dealing damage. So, yeah, if you're gonna play this comp, put the GA on them.
Highly recommend to do so. And because the fact that Fluffy is winning, so he doesn't have to change anything. But if he needs to make gold, I totally foresee him eventually transitioning off these Vanguards and just going to Darkstar. It's a much more economical approach.
Sure.
But he's also kind of crushing it. Jin 2 with these items, very hard to stop if you don't have CC or ways to get to Jin in front of his face and constantly keep the pressure up.
Yep, your regular attacks are hitting for like 700 plus at this point, and your
Right.
fourth attack obviously just crushes people. So yeah, this Jin is very strong, and I mean, hitting the Jin too is really the key. Now he has Celestial, so this is another nice thing in that you've got the sniper bonus, of course, with the Ashe in there already. It hits the Ashe too as well. Wow, Karma too, I think, got
And a Jace
put in
too.
there, and a Jace too. So suddenly Fluffy is quite a bit stronger here.
Yeah, I really like, now that he has Jace too, I think he can stay onto the Vanguard plan for a while.
Yeah.
And probably just ride this pony all the way home.
I mean, the thing is if anything's going to get you a top 4 finish, it's going to be this comp in this state right now. And just being able to add Celestial in there with the Cassidon too is such a nice benefit in terms of keeping your front line alive for just a tiny bit longer. And he crushes that fight. Like, Khroen had no chance in that one. And Khroen drops down to 5th place right now in the standings, which actually isn't that bad for him because we're in a carousel round now. Ooh, there's an echo on that carousel. Does anybody need the early echo?
Oh, I like it. He takes that Lulu. Lulu with the bow is not particularly important, but she is extremely crucial for a Jin composition because she activates both the Mystic and the Celestial.
Yep, great replacement for
Karma
Cassidon there.
And the Ashe. Yep.
Yeah.
So now we head on over to Gunmay playing one of his favorite compositions, which is Kale. As we mentioned, Kale is the most popular champion in set 3 right now, almost hitting a 30% play rate. So if you are one of those brave souls that says, I want to play Kale, just keep in mind that, yes, Kale has a very high win rate. And yes, Kale also is very popular. So you might end up hurting yourself.
You're going to have to be rolling the dice to get that Kale before all the other Kale players in your lobby, more or less.
Yes.
All right, finds the Wukong too as well. Man, on board with Gunmay, as we were mentioning earlier, down in 7th place. So another player in the need of creating a longer win streak. He did win that last round. Can he keep it going now? We'll see. That Kale should be doing a lot of damage here. Goes up against a Star Guardians player, but Souless this time around. And so what I've noticed in my hundreds of Star Guardians games at this point is that you're going to lose to Kale comps until you hit the Syndra 3. Because Syndra 3 is when you start one-shotting their back line. And if you don't one-shot the Kale, then Kale's probably going to kill you. So that's one of those rounds where, as a Star Guardians player, you're going to be like, all right, well, I'm just going to lose to this Kale until I hit that power spike, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. Sometimes Nico 3, you know, depending on some special positioning situations, can help carry you a little bit by eliminating the front line really fast. But yeah, in general, you're going to need the Syndra 3.
Yeah, I think Syndra 3 is extremely important. I've rarely seen any Star Guardian able to win a lobby without her.
Oh, you wouldn't. Yeah, you're not going to win there's certain comps you just can't beat without Syndra 3. Such as this comp. Kale v Kale! Oh, man. Soju. gets the win with his slightly, maybe not as buffed up item-wise Kale, but the Wukong adding in a little bit of the damage that he needed.
And it feels like this is finally like Soju's luck turning around. We've Soju's one of the players who's been featured in our first 2 days of broadcast, and it feels like almost every time we've hopped onto Soju's POV, he's been struggling because he just hasn't been able to find the things that he needs, right? He's been stuck on like KO 1 and he rolled down like 80 gold and didn't find a single other KO. Or he was playing Cybernetics, went fast 8, didn't find Echo until like it was really too late and he already committed to a gangplank. Yep. So, can he find a way now that he's in a dominant position to potentially finish at the very top of this lobby? And I want to see him be able to press in here.
Well, let's find out. We'll go to Soju's POV right now to check that out. Soju right now 5th in points overall tonight, with a pretty solid finish in round number 1, getting a 3rd there, but then having a pretty, or rather a 3rd place in round 1, I think it was. Wait, what am I looking at? All right. I'm reading the scoreboard and confusing myself. Either way, he had 1 strong finish, 1 not so great finish. Now looking a little bit better in game number 3 here. Oh, finds a GA for Kale. That is a really big pickup.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kale tends to require a 1 defensive item in her 3 item setup. A lot of times people end up opting for Guardian Angel because it's very common to just, give her a second chance at life.
Yep.
And then another one that's really common is Quicksilver Sash, and just being able to deny like an early blitz pull so you could put her in the corner. As we were talking about last week, my favorite setup with Kale is Rage Blade, Ginsu's Rage Blade, Rapid Fire Cannon, and Quicksilver Sash. But I've been kind of recognizing the value of having things like Morello's or Guardian Angel, or sometimes even just as you see, like just raw ability power on her.
Well, it's like we talked about with the Jhin builds, where just like Jhin, Kale can get basically one shot at the start of fights if things don't go her way. So having the GA is kind of some insurance to just make sure your Kale's going to be able to do some damage. Some last minute positioning, moving the Kale over the right side, which may have been the play because he's going to be avoiding getting hit by that Nico, I believe. But wow, double Seraphs and the Death Cap on the Syndra. And you can see she just one-shot that Kale, but the Kale came back with a GA. It wasn't quite enough. And that's kind of what I was talking about, where once you get Nico 3 sometimes or Syndra 3, that's when you start beating these Kale comps. And Souless kind of demonstrating that right there.
Yeah. Nico getting a Titan's Resolve and a Xerot Portal. Some of the newer tech, people used to think that Ionic Spark and Guardian Angel was like the real key, but Bramble Vest, Titan's Resolve, Dragon's Claw, Xerot Portal, all of these are very valuable to place onto Nico these days. And I think the bottom line is keep Nico alive. That's pretty much the only thing that you need right now.
Yeah, because Nico is basically a front line of 1. Everybody else is back and to the sides. So you need to keep Nico standing for as long as you possibly can. And I still like the Ionic Spark just because of the magic resist or the anti-MR that it does. But you are seeing now where you can put a lot of just good defensive items on Nico, and the longer she lives, the longer your backline gets to continue casting. So we'll see how Khroen is doing now as we're on his POV. MF has the Thieves' Gloves, doing some damage.
Oh no, looks like Khroen's out here. And I think the big thing that I was observing just from that very brief fight was that I think a lot of his units just didn't have power. I think he had a lot of 1-star units. Great synergies across the board. Finished that Cybernetics comp, but 6th, 7th, that is not what you want to see out of Khroen, one of the best players in this region.
It's a rough start, man. And, Cybernetics giveth and Cybernetics taketh away, right? If you get that Echo, but it's just a little bit too late, you still need some HP to sort of work with. And you're just too vulnerable to dying in 1 or 2 bad fights if that doesn't happen. So Khroen, unfortunately, taking that loss. Now on board with Souless as he continues trying to make his run here with Star Guardians. And so back in the day, you used to want to just keep Nico up in the front by herself. But now where, you know, Nico doesn't quite have, you know, you don't put the IE on her and stuff like that, the Ionic Spark, rather, IS. You don't put the Ionic Spark on her anymore. So it's not quite as vital to have everybody surround Nico at the beginning of the fight. And that lets you build like a little bit of a stronger front line with the Poppy as well. Using Lux's kind of blitz crankbait feels bad, but you know, a lot of times if you're running to like a mech or something like that, you just want to keep everything away from your Syndra. So let's see how this does.
It is it's doing just great.
It certainly does. Nico 3 will just absolutely blow people up.
Yeah, and you know, Syndra 2, like we're talking about with the double Seraphs, she builds up the damage the longer the game goes because she casts orbs and they stay on the battlefield, and then she creates new orbs and throws them and pulls every orb that's on the field. So theoretically, similar to Aurelion Soul, the longer the fight goes, the more you're in favor.
Oh, definitely.
That's why, like, he's still been able to do very good, even though he only has Syndra 2 and he has a few on his bench waiting to go.
Yeah.
Wow, even selling all of his other sorcerers to make gold.
The only real risk here is that there's no defensive item on Syndra, so she is vulnerable to Zephyr. She is vulnerable to just getting jumped on. So in this situation, you really have to be careful about your positioning, because if Syndra dies, then you just simply lose.
Yeah, but Syndra's doing a great job sniping all the carries. Nico still stays alive. Very good job by Souless. And you know, the Cybernetics players dying early actually does end up helping a lot, because Irelia doesn't jump on to Syndra.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about Irelia.
That is the number one thing I'm afraid of when I play Syndra. Because Syndra's constantly basically at full mana, and Irelia will chase her down eventually and shoot right to her. Almost to the point where at a certain point during the metagame over the last week, people were favoring no AP items on Syndra. Instead, they wanted to play 2 Seraphs and a Trap Claw, because a Trap Claw on Irelia would negate it and stun her.
Yeah, I've kind of gone through that phase as well. I like just making her as strong as possible, but there is a school of thought to keeping her safer like that. Yeah.
What is this, like a puberty in TFT?
Yeah, no, you know, when you play a composition.
Go through your Trap Claw phase.
Yeah, I went through a GA phase. I went through a Trap Claw phase. I'm in the QSS phase on Syndra right now, and I'm experimenting with 1 Seraph builds instead of going to try to prioritize 2 Seraphs every single time.
Yeah,
so yeah, you definitely go through phases if you play one comp as much as I have with that account.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Syndra 3, here we go.
Yep, there it is, online, and now Souless is getting extremely scary. Even adds Mystic in the end with the Karma, and it doesn't really matter too much where the Karma goes, because you just want stuff in the back line. You just want that Mystic buff. That's really it. Yeah, Syndra should be basically a machine gun of death at this point. Just one-shotting everybody.
Oh, this Kale's sustaining through all the damage, though.
Yeah, she is.
That's too much. And, you know, this is where the Celestial buff really comes into play. Also, the way that Star Guardians tend to clump up tends to be really easy for Kale to get big damage out. So I think Souless has to reevaluate his position a little bit, which he started doing by rearranging.
That's definitely part of it. I think another part of it is that the Lucian is actually an enormous threat as well, where the Lucian is going to just burn through the Nico 3 so quickly, and you're not really getting an answer, right? Because Syndra can only kill 1 person at a time, and Lucian fires so fast that I actually love that there's a bunch of items on that Lucian, because that definitely shores things up, where having Kale be your kind of only carry would make you weak to Star Guardians, for sure. On Kiyoon, who's playing against the Star Guardians now. Mech Infiltrator does have the Kai'Sa 3 with the Demolitionist Spat. Slowly grinding through that Nico, but all the Infiltrators die really fast against a fully buffed up Star Guardians comp, and you can see the GA on Nico bringing her back and keeping her alive, and that's the other thing too, is that like Nico may drop early, but with the GA she comes back and she ties up the mech long enough that the Star Guardians handle the back line. They just insta-gib all the Infiltrators, and then they put everything into the mech.
Yeah.
That's generally how those fights go.
And now Kiyoon down to his last life. We've been seeing him in this position, but honestly, it's anybody's game.
It's a very tight top 4.
Yeah, Soju is leading the lobby just a cut above 20 health, and that means that he's at 1.5 life here. If he takes a really bad loss, he might even die.
It's possible. I suppose we are late enough, yeah.
Yeah.
Going up against the powerful Kale comp of Soju right now. That mech, though, just walking forward, gets popped a little bit early, but the MF doing a lot of damage. And that's a pretty resounding win. He takes out Soju. Whoa.
What we were talking about.
Yeah.
One really bad loss, and all of a sudden, it was looking like it was Soju's path of redemption. He is out.
He's out in 4th place, so at least it's a top 4 finish. Souless exits in 3rd, and now we're down to just Fluffy versus Kiyoon. The final carousel, both of them rushing for that Dragon's Claw, but it is going to be, I believe, Kiyoon that picked that up? No, he didn't actually. It was going to be Fluffy that picked that up. Yeah, late game Dragon's Claw can be a very important item. Lux 2 for Kiyoon. We're going to switch over to Fluffy's perspective for now. And Fluffy has a very strong Lulu too, and that's going to be really annoying for Kiyoon to deal with, because you're going to have to worry about now. I suppose the mech has QSS, but that backline might not do a whole lot if it jumps onto the Lulu and immediately gets polymorphed.
Yeah. And it looks like Fluffy in a really good position here. Jin is uncontested. Has that the build that we were talking about earlier. Just a lot of people love gravitating towards this build.
Yeah, but now the mech is walking in.
Yeah, the mech actually gets in anyways, and Fluffy not able to kill fast enough. So it ends up being a 2nd place. And once more, the mech prevails.
See, this is what I was talking about, man. I don't know what it is about Mech Infiltrator, but apparently in Giant Slayer series, Mech Infiltrator just wins games 2 and 3. We had that happen last week with Delicious Milk, and now we have it happen this week. So now, just going by the history of the series, a large sample size of one other day of this, that means next game we finally have a non-Mech Infiltrator player in for a win. So beware, Mech Infiltrator players. You can't win the next one. Impossible.
Yeah, so taking a look at some of the scores of how things are shaping up. Souless is number 1 currently, just by a point. Kiyoon at number 2 after that nice back-to-back 1st place finish. And history might repeat itself if Kiyoon ends up, doing well in the games 2 and 3, and then a Star Guardian Sorcerer ends up winning and taking the last lobby here.
We needed a Void player to win game 1 and the Star Guardians to win game 4, but we're already not going to do that. So we'll see what game 4 has in store for us. Rayditz dropping down a little bit. His finish is not quite as strong today, but hey, it's tough for anybody to be as consistent as he was. But I believe we're going to throw it to another break, and when we come back, the final game of the day here at Giant Slayer series. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to see how the final point standings look after this next match. And we are back here at the Giant Slayer series. And Frodan, we have one game remaining. I'm going to put you on the spot and say, do you think that Mech Infiltrator is going to win the final game?
If it goes uncontested and Kiyoon's able to land the demo spat once more, then yes. It feels like because Kiyoon is uncontested, and 2, he finds like the right items. He knows the comp well enough to be able to out position, or rather position optimally the way he's supposed to every fight. I think when those things line up, then I don't think it can get stopped. That being said, there was moments where it looked like it could have gone either way. The top 4 was all very close. Soju was ahead. He was at 22 life, and then he died. So, things could be very dramatic and swingy, and the top 4 could have rearranged and shuffled depending on matchmaking, depending on what, maybe small little optimizations of their shop and their positioning and play. It's definitely interesting to think about.
Well, so many of those very, very late Mech Infiltrator versus Comp X rounds comes down to a lot of positioning stuff too, where you can see the Mech Infiltrator player, lose. If you can eliminate that backline early enough and get enough focused fire on the raid boss mech in the middle, you can turn it around sometimes. But let's take a look at our scores so far. We have Souless in the lead, 23 points for him. Kiyoon very close behind, 22. 2 first place finishes in a row with Mech Infiltrator. He's sort of channeling delicious milk at this point as far as his performance has gone today. Gunmay and Soju close behind at 3rd and 4th as well. So we will see who takes round 4. But before we get there, if you haven't done it already, type !GSS in the chat, because you know what that does, Frodan? I'll tell you what it does. It takes you to the landing page on juke.gg, where we have all of the players' point of views. If you don't want to watch us, which makes sense because sometimes I can't speak English, but if you want to watch your favorite player or someone who's playing a comp that you're trying to learn better, you can jump over to that player's POV. You can also find VODs there from previous days, the mainstream, the schedule. It's really got everything, and big props to Juke for setting that all up for us. Pretty awesome. So !GSS in the chat. There you go.
Yeah, maybe we should just do that, and we'd be able to.
Maybe we should. Not a bad idea.
I'm gonna try it for at least a big portion of the beginning of the game and see how it works.
We can go for it. I've got like our feed, and then I've got the mainstream on the side too, so I can kind of like cross-reference like that shape. Oh, that is a QSS. There you go. So yeah, but we are ready to move into game number 4. See if Mech Infiltrator can take it again. I said we're ready to move into it, but I'm not 100% sure. Oh, we are. Let's do it. All right. Game number 4.
Carousel is coming up here.
Oh, no.
And an all-sword carousel makes it pretty interesting.
Yeah, it really does.
Is because there's a large belief that sword is the most desired item off the carousel, because it builds into obviously Guardian Angel, which most people love unless you're Mismatched Socks in our chat, who apparently hates Guardian Angel. Specifically
I don't know why you would hate Guardian Angel, man. I'm sorry. I know you're a great player, but that confuses me.
It builds into Infinity. I think if you were to break it down, specifically on Jhin, I think he's talking about how if you want to place Jhin in the corner, things like Guardian Angel makes Jhin a positional liability, as opposed to other things like Trap Claw and Q.
That is true. There are extemporaneous factors, I suppose, that can.
That being said, Infinity Edge is great. We've seen people use swords to, just combo with a bunch of other stuff that people don't know. People don't play it very much. So things like, we've seen the occasional Giant Slayer. We've seen people have Shojin builds.
Kiyoon has invoked the magic words, Mech, all the way to hand holding the 7 and 8 and all that. And then he muted everyone else in the lobby.
Excellent.
So that is how you do optimal. It. That is optimal early game Mech Infiltrator. You're absolutely right. He's won the chat game already.
Exactly. There you go.
Yep. Double Graves. He's got the chain vest as well, but like you said, you don't necessarily want to slam that into a GA right away. You want to maybe save it for something like an Infinity Edge. You've also got a possible red buff start. That chain vest can get turned possibly into a Titan's Resolve if you want to make your mech stronger, which is oftentimes what you're going to want to do if you really are meching it. So we'll see what he decides to go into. I think you save it for mech items.
Yeah, and I think that if you're going to be going for these mech items, you're not really super concerned with slamming them on anything. You're just okay losing. The big thing about Kiyoon, as we talked about before, was the art and mastery of forcing a comp is also understanding how to capitalize on things like losing streaks. And it is actually even a prominent thing back in the previous set. If you looked at Rise of the Elements for set 2, back when Spatula was very commonly offered on the first carousels, you saw people like Delicious Milk specifically try to intentionally lose to get that spatula. It wasn't necessarily because they wanted to lose streak the way that they were doing now, but you wanted to get those items to guarantee the comeback.
Yeah, you wanted that blender, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wanted that Blade Master Nocturne or Blade Master Azir later on in set 2. Moving on to Agon's view, another player that's had rougher results today, but we'll see what he can do in the 4th lobby. Again, like each of these players plays quite a few lobbies over the course of the tournament, but man, wow, that is a really strong start for Souless. Cybernetic start, getting the Vi early. Yikes.
Yeah, that early game cybernetics is just going to be very powerful win streaking for Souless. In the meantime, we're hopping over to Fluffy's POV. He's starting off what looks like against Soju's static shiv opening with Zaya.
Maybe. I think we're still on with Agon right now.
Oh, I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
Looking at Fluffy.
Right. The players debating us as well. A couple Mordekaisers in the shop right now. Agon's still debating on what he wants to do, but what he really wants to do is lose. He is all aboard the anti-hype train, and he is just going to open fort as much as he possibly can to get that carousel priority.
Yeah. He's doing a great job. He what he could do is buy the Mordekaiser after, and this kind of like ensures that he lose, but still has a chance to maybe kill one unit, just preserve 1 HP.
That's more or less what he did. Because when you do lose like this, you don't necessarily, like you're saying, Frodan, you don't necessarily want to lose by a ton. You want to lose, but you want to maybe take out a couple of their champions before you do that, just to kind of save yourself a couple of HP. Because as we've seen, just ask Souless, 1 or 2 HP definitely matters in the late game.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure Soju, that previous game, would love to have like 2-3 extra HP, so he would have survived that burst.
Absolutely.
Holy.
Wow. Mord, right? Not Mord 3, but 3 Mords. So he has a chance of picking up a Mordekaiser, but he doesn't really want it though,
Oh, wait. Did he pick
going over to Fluffy?
I guess
we don't know. We'll know when we see his board. That's when we'll know.
You can also tell if there's a Mordekaiser 2-star next to his name in the bottom, but Mordekaiser 2
How much do you commit to the open fort though? That's the thing.
Yeah. Mordekaiser 2, I think, is entirely reasonable to play.
Or he didn't commit, rather. I believe I saw the Mord 2 on his board for just a moment. As Fluffy was looking around. I think he clicked on Agon and we saw it. So I think he did get it. I mean, Mord 2 is kind of hard to pass up. That's arguably one of the strongest early mid-game units. Yeah.
You are correct. It looks like Agon won, and I know that because I went to juked.gg and watched Agon's POV.
Wait, did you type !GSS in the chat to find that landing page? Don't answer
I
that.
did
you already
not, but thankfully, heroes like Night Savior and Twist Mitri did.
Hooray! They are heroes. They're not only heroes; they're just better informed people in general.
Yes, and
They've
also
become smarter.
handsome.
Yeah, I mean, you just watch someone type !GSS in chat, and you are literally witnessing someone become more attractive and intelligent right before your eyes. You think you may need to lift weights every day like Frodan does? No, you don't need that. You just need to type !GSS in chat.
Exactly.
That's right.
I don't even know why I bothered with all these gains.
Yeah, that's right. Just 4 characters would have gotten you there.
I was doing it.
Mad TFT gains.
Great. I came to Giant Slayer series to learn how to play mech, and I walked away with life advice from DoA.
You learned how to live. Level 5 for Fluffy. Jumping up there a little bit early, maybe. Trying to keep the win
Yeah, this
streak
is-
alive.
Well, it's basically starting the win streak. The win streak is barely starting because it's at 2, but very committed to this. And again, this is a advanced strategy, even though I think like it's one of those things that comes full circle. People who are first learning to play probably do this a lot, and then
Mhm.
people start as they learn to eco up, think that it's bad to do this, and then as you get more advanced, you start to learn the timings of when you should be doing it. So you go for full circle.
Yeah.
That being said, it's all for naught if he loses this.
Oh no! And then the GA, I don't think is going
Okay,
to
okay.
save him too much. Gets 1. Oh, and the
got
GA
it.
was already popped on the Fiora, so he's okay. That was close though. That was where you really wonder if you made the right investment there. If you lose that,
I was sweating a little bit. Fluffy was willing to
No
just throw in the
kidding.
Runins to just give one final stat buff at the end to try
Yeah.
and get him over the hump. That's scary.
hey, if
That
that's what
being
it takes,
said, he's taken down the lobby leader, and he is the sole possessor of the lit aura over his avatar.
He's on fire, as NBA Jam Tournament Edition would say.
Was it only a tournament edition?
I that's the one I played. So
Gotcha.
I did play maybe a little bit of original NBA Jam, but it was 98% Tournament Edition.
Gotcha.
The good old
I
SNES.
wasn't the cool kids. I had the regular version. It wasn't even
There's nothing
mine. It was
wrong
my
with that.
neighbors. We weren't jocks like you, Doa.
Yeah, you know me. That was me, Johnny Football Hero, in high school. Yep.
That's right.
I'll tell you a
Wow,
true
a
story.
triple Shin Zhao shop.
What? What are these shops today?
Very interesting. 3
We've seen
threshes.
Lux, the Thresh, yeah.
3 Shin Zhaos.
This is the real test your knowledge of economy and TFT day, right? Where they give you these very, very tempting offers, and it's like, is it really worth it? Does this hurt or help my economy by giving me a stronger board but less gold? I don't know. He's waiting to see if he gets gold from the Terra Bursters. We'll see what he decides to do. He's already gone under 30s, but he might sell the Mord. That's not gold, but that is, well, it is 2 gold. Technically, Darius is basically 2 gold at this point in the game. Yeah, I think he's going to prioritize money at this point. Probably the right thing to do.
I think most people prioritize that in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in TFT, I think especially it's important. Maybe in life, people overdo it. But in TFT, yeah, you got to care about that money. Yeah.
Fair enough. We're going to transition over to Gunmay's POV as Gunmay with this early Ash. Looks like he's leaning towards playing some kind of carry composition. By carry composition, we mean having one central carry be the focus of a lot of the items.
Yeah, he's got an option to go for the purple people eaters, but you can still shift out of that. You can see just loading up items on Xayah too right now, because she'll be sold later to move over for a Jhin or something like that.
Kind of sucks. But
I had the option of 2 Guardian Angels, but you know, I like the stacking of Xayah for now. Xayah is a fantastic early game carry. I think that took a little bit of buffs to help people notice it across the board that she was very solid. I like the idea of even putting the early game static Shiv, but I personally never seen success doing it. Every time I've done that, I think I transitioned poorly and I bottom 4.
Who was it? Someone was telling me that like they loved static Shiv Kale the other day, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Static Shiv, that was great on Vayne like back in set 2 for a while, but I haven't seen it. It's still a good item, but I think there's just a lot of better items in the meta that you would make out of a tier and a bow at this point.
Yeah, the key is not actually playing one Shiv, though. The key is actually playing multiple Shivs. I'm not kidding. You're actually supposed to play like 2, maybe even
No,
3
you're not
Shivs.
wrong. You're not wrong. And you know, if you do get a Kale 2 with 2 Shivs, that's in theory, like on paper, a ton of damage.
Yes, but I understand exactly what you're saying, which is it just seems like there's way better ways to build it. And you're not wrong. Part of the reason why you do it is because you're supposed to win streak early and kind of land yourself into a top 4.
Right.
And I think that's a viable strategy to keep in your pocket if you're in a tournament position and you just need to finish top 4 to get like the point threshold. But I like to play very similar to what Kiyoon is doing. Same thing that Delicious Milk does, which is play for first.
Yeah.
And I think with the point threshold cutoff to give you extra points for finishing first and fourth compared to the spot below, I think it's worth it.
Fair enough.
We can level already. We're gonna level anyways.
Picks up the fizz, and when you get a chance, he had the 5% fizz, right? So he sold it. I was wondering if he maybe wanted to hold on to it just to kind of like make it a little bit tougher for Kiyoon to find his fizz for his mech, or if he wanted to maybe keep it around to say, hey, if I maybe hit like a ton of mech stuff, I can shift over. But he needs the gold. He wants to stay above 50. Makes a little bit more sense.
It's really tough because Gunmay's in a spot where he's second in the lobby right now in terms of the point standings. All he has to do is really kind of finish in the top 3, and he's kind of locked up a really top finish for today, maybe even winning it.
Yeah, possibly.
But if he plays mech and he holds the hand of Kiyoon all the way to the 7th and 8th, then he kind of throws away a lot of that lead he built up. So I think this might be a game of chicken.
Yeah, maybe. Now, Gunmay last week was really leaning towards void compositions in a lot of his lobbies, but we haven't seen much of that today from him as well. I think Void's time in the sun as like a composition people went for has kind of like came and went already. Like it's still a valid comp and it can win lobbies, but it's kind of moved into where I think it fits better. Whereas it's a comp that you transition into if you see the opportunity. And it's not really a comp you start out a game being like, I'm gonna be Void this game, unless you're like in gold, and then you can just do it every game and win because it's fun. But at a higher end lobby like this, I don't think you can start a game planning on being Void.
Yeah, I think it's purely what the game gives you.
Yeah.
That being said, we're hopping on to Khroen's perspective. Khroen definitely needs to pick it up. 6th, 6th, 7th, not really cutting it. Needs to find a way to capitalize on this win streak, and it looks like he's going to turn to a blaster build of some kind to start things off. Entirely reasonable. I think because Jinx, she has a condition before she starts getting good, which is killing a unit. It's a little bit tricky to kind of guarantee and pull it off right now. And so
she kept walking into the Vel'Koz laser. Why would you do that, Jinx? She just chased it down like it was a friendly sunbeam, but no. That was like standing in front of the literal sun.
Yeah. 4 blasters is very reasonable. The only thing is that I don't feel like it wins lobbies. I feel like blasters has to either power spike like mad and get the perfect misfortune items and upgrade her.
Yeah, it does seem
rare
these
have
days.
to get to like Jinx to 3-star, and I feel like that's the way you win.
Yeah,
Even then,
I think all the lobbies that I've had blasters that have won that I've seen in 10.6 have been all Jinx 3. Or occasionally like just a ridiculous Jinx 2 and a ridiculous MF. Just both like full items.
Yeah, Jinx getting a 3-star has also, I've seen her lose despite her being a 3-star because she
it's no
took
guarantee,
a little bit too long to activate. Yeah, she took a little bit too long to activate. People are like playing really tanky stuff. So if you have like a Shin's out that she's like attacking, or like the mech, she's just not going to kill those units for a long time.
She can get stuck on the mech. Funny enough, Jinx 3 is really good against Star Guardians because you're usually kind of planning on Nico to die at some point fairly early in the fight, especially if you're running the GA on her. And so a lot of times that can like power up Jinx a little bit quicker than you'd want. So funny enough, that's one of the comps that I've struggled with in my Star Guardian Journey to Masters this set.
Interesting.
Blasters, yeah. Specifically the Jinx carry blasters, which is, pretty much just blasters now. But
another fascinating thing that I've seen people debate is whether or not red buff even belongs on Jinx.
Really?
I think that, yeah.
I like red buff. Red buff Runen seems really good on Jinx.
Well, the logic is that red buff is something that all blasters will apply, and you just pretty much care about the effect of red buff. You're not caring about who applies to it, because red buff's main power is the healing debuff. So you can give it to like Ezreal or Misfortune, and you'll still like have it applied. I think most likely Ezreal's the carrier, and then you can give Jinx like Giant Slayer, you can give her a defensive item, and then give her like Infinity Edge, and then you're
So
like
you're-
really starting to kill people.
So your point isn't that it's that red buff is bad on Jinx. It's just that red buff is just as good on any of the other blasters in your composition
Right.
as it is on Jinx. And you might as well free
Yes.
up the item slot. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. I agree.
But I mean, by all means, there's people who find success with playing, red buff on Jinx.
Yeah, depending on
particularly if
the
you
way
get
your
her
items
two
shook out,
strikes.
it's not bad. If you just don't have the Jinx items, why not? Brawlers. That's what you're looking for.
Yes, brawlers tend to be particularly effective with the blasters, just to give them a ton of HP, and also because there's some inherent synergy there, which works really well. That
Makes
being
sense.
said,
Looking for some information, scouting a couple other boards there, and repositioning. And this is something you really need to do, even though there are 7 other players in the lobby. You can kind of deduce by looking at who you've played, who you have a higher likelihood of playing, and just trying to position for the worst case scenario. Khroen trying to do that right now, but unfortunately, is he going to win this one? I don't know, man. That Lucian's pretty strong. Yeah, it looks like the Lucian's just a little bit too strong.
yeah. But Lucian has
That's rough.
the 3 best items that you really want on Lucian early game, which is Giant Slayer, Red Buff, and Infinity Edge.
Yeah.
Finds the 4th brawler. That's big. Looking for misfortune.
Oh, giving himself the option to possibly run into Void as well. No, okay, he's going to sell the Vel'Koz. Also, just kind of freeing up some forecasts in the pool to try to hit that Kale and that Jinx a little bit earlier.
Yeah, the Kale is important because Misfortune is a Valkyrie
Right.
blaster, and you would want to get that Valkyrie bonus onto her.
That is correct.
Khroen has a lot of life to work with, so he doesn't have to all in down to 0 gold. I think that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
But
I think
like to
unless
get Jinx
you're
too.
unless you're about to lose, there's really very few situations where you want to go below 20 gold. Oh, Kale. Kale's very strong. That MF already as well for his opponent too. So going into the carousel before Arc Raptors. Now there is a spatula there. Interesting.
Yes, blasters don't particularly stand out to me as a composition that likes to use the.
No, I'm wondering who's going to take it. Yeah, Kiyoon thinking about it. How you grab the spat? Does he have a rod though? That's the question. Can he make that demolition as Kaisa?
Wow.
He's had it the last 2 games.
Kiyoon?
I believe
Yes.
so. I think he had demolition as both games. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he had it in game number 1. I feel like he didn't because he didn't finish quite as high. I don't think. Let's jump over to
go
Q's
ahead
view
and
actually and
check.
check it out. Yeah. All right. Well, he doesn't have the rod yet, but he does have the spatula, which is obviously much tougher to get than the rod. So. But now,
Right.
if I'm anyone else in this lobby, I'm like looking at this and being like, all right, we cannot possibly give him a rod on a carousel. Although at this point in the game, you're probably never going to see another one on a carousel. So it's a little bit too late. It's all down to the neutral minions now.
Stage 3 PV round actually fucking.
So what do you turn this into if you can't get the needlessly large rod for the demo spat? Oh, the mech gets Zephyred.
Honestly, I haven't really seen too many other successful things. Sometimes people turn Kale into an infiltrator, so now you have 2 Valkyrie infiltrators.
I suppose you can hit 4 infiltrator a little bit easier that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hitting 4 infiltrator isn't really a big issue because you have Fizz, obviously for the mech pilot. You have Kaisa, Shaco, and Kha'Zix, but you can replace Kha'Zix with Kale.
Yeah, I
and
guess
then
just with
still
better
play the
stuff.
normal composition.
Right. Well, he lost that one to Super Lucian.
Yeah, Kiyoon's not in the most comfortable of spots. 33 life is still a little bit lower than you'd like. A lot of times when you're playing these kinds of compositions, you have health thresholds that you're always evaluating at different stages. So
Yeah.
you're saying at the beginning of stage 3, I want to have ideally somewhere between this range of health. If not, then I'm going to roll a little bit to improve so that I don't lose any more health. And it can be something. It can be something like every round. It can be every few rounds, and a lot of players have these rules. Being 30 health at the end of this stage is generally not what you want, but at the same time, it's not exactly rare for it to be the case either.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen Mech Infiltrators players come back? But I think the big problem is here is that he only has a Bramble Vest on the mech. That's the only item he's got. There's 3 Annies, that's helpful, but you know, you need better defensive items on the mech right now. 1 Bramble Vest, even with Rumble 3, is not going to cut it. So he's really, really hoping for something tanky to come out of these Arc Raptors right now. Let's see if he gets it. Did you see that Aurelia? Infinity Edge, Deathblade.
Interesting.
Yeah. That is a lot of damage, but that's a glass cannon right there. That's crazy. All right, so we could make a Warmogs. That is something.
What the fuck? This is the fastest thing I've ever in my life.
So sword in the
Warmogs can go onto the mech. It's not ideal by any means, but totally viable.
It's a tanky item, I suppose. He's got to roll down now, though. Doesn't have any of his infiltrators 3-starred yet. Getting close to the Kaisa. There's the Valkyrie bonus with the Kale, but you know, when is he going to hit level 7? Okay, there's 3-star Kaisa. And yep, just making the Warmogs on the mech. And we'll see how this goes. Low HP for Kiyoon. He's just going to add the sword. Just adding items in just to try to stay alive, it looks like. But the mech already busted so fast. And that Jin just absolutely wrecking in the back lines. And oh man, Kiyoon on the verge of death at 11 HP right now.
Yeah, this is pretty shocking given that Kiyoon is once again uncontested. Soju's playing Cybernetics, Agon's playing Dark Stars.
Yeah.
Cybernetics for Souless.
You've heard of like the Da Vinci Code, right? Like this is like the Giant Slayer series code where it basically just once you interpret it, it reads as like Mech Infiltrator will always win games 2 and 3, but never games 1 and 4.
Sure, yeah, that makes
another
sense
comp
to me.
will rise.
Gunmay's playing Darkstar, Fluffy's playing a Kale composition, Rayditz at another Kale composition, and Khroen, as we saw, was playing Blasters. So, you know, Kiyoon, if he bombs out here, would be quite a shocking exit.
Yeah, it really would.
Game 4.
He dropped the Kazakhs in front just to make sure that his mech wouldn't get Zephyred on the off chance he runs into it. But man, look at that. The mech again just dying way, way too fast. And this Jinx carry and the Kale carry way too much for Kiyoon to handle. And he will bomb out in 8th. Wow. First 8th. Taking like a bit of a page out of Becca's playbook from last week where it's either first or last. But interesting end to the day for Kiyoon. We're going to move over to check out Soju's perspective right now.
And he didn't hold anybody's hand either. That was kind of the shocking part to me, is that no one was really challenging for the mech. And usually you see both them like bottom 4. In this case, he just kind of was by himself.
I mean, this is one of those times too where you just don't find the items you're looking for. You know, if you accept that you're going to force a comp every single game, you also have to accept that there's going to be games where you just don't get the items that your composition needs to succeed. And
it's true.
You know, again, like looking at his mech, he had the Bramble Vest, but that was really it as far as mech items. Warmog's not that great on the super mech in this situation, and so yeah, just didn't find the items.
Yeah, well, you know, back to Soju, he does have some pretty good items. That double IE Deathblade Irelia is pretty solid. Most people have agreed that double IE is a great build as a core for Irelia. Some people like to play Last Whisper. In this case, just another damage item.
I mean, I guess you don't need to worry about Last Whisper to take down the mech quicker now. The mech player's dead. I don't think anyone else is going Mech Infiltrator in the lobby, or Mech Sorcerer maybe.
That's right. Ding dong. The mech is dead.
Yes. Which old mech? The cheap OP mech. That doesn't rhyme, but that's okay.
Mech rhymes with mech.
Mech does rhyme with mech. You're right.
Yeah.
Just not in a good way.
Not in the satisfying way you're hoping for.
I mean, I suppose if a Mech Infiltrator player tried to rhyme, that's what would happen, though.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Looking for that last echo, hitting that next level. Finds it.
GP. No, that is an Echo. You're right. That's pretty big. And he's got Hand of Justice and Static Shiv on that Echo. So he's going to be doing a pretty good amount of damage. And he's going to be also casting fairly quickly, too, because of the tier.
Yep. Just has to find the right Echo positioning, trying to see if he can... Ooh, frontline Echo.
Huh. Okay.
Oh, interesting. I haven't actually seen this strategy adopted in a little bit of time.
So
But it does make sense if you want to ult quickly.
Yeah. And he's going to get that ult off. Well, we thought he was, but now he's walking all the way across the board to the Ashe. Gets shot with the Ashe arrow. Oh, but it doesn't matter because, yeah, the rest of the team picking up the slack. I was worried for a second. That Echo did not ult fast.
That's a really important win. I think if Soju can win out for the stage, if he can win 5-6 here, that's a really big thing because starting from stage 6 onwards, you take 15 base damage,
right?
And that would put him at 1.5 lives. Again, 22 seems to be an awkward number because last time he was at 22, he actually died in one shot. But that was because he lost so dramatically that it seemed a little bit unlucky for him, like a bad matchmaking or perhaps a slight mismanagement of his positioning because he was anticipating somebody else.
What's interesting, too, is that Soju right now is 15 points on the day, and he has a real chance to jump up into the potentially top 3 because Gunmay exited in the 7th place, and he's at 3 with 22 right now. So could be some pretty big position shakeups in terms of rankings, depending on how Soju finishes here, too.
But Ooh, it's super close. They are really chasing, and he gets the kill.
Wow. Who needs
big moment here for Soju?
Who needs GA? I guess he's got Celestial, but like he just needs the damage, you know?
Yeah.
He's got it.
Oh my. He even found a redemption, which I think a lot of people have pegged as definitely a very solid item on units like Fiora. Because Fiora dies very quickly. I wonder if he might just give that to Echo, though, to have him ult even quicker.
I mean, it would be strong, but I like the idea of giving your team a big heal during the early part of the fight. We'll see what he decides to do. I'm really curious about what decision he's going to make with this.
I feel like it could be argued both ways here.
Yeah. So I want to know what Soju's going to do. All right, there's an Aurelia. The off chance you have maybe a slim chance of going for the Aurelia 3. Seems unlikely, but
yeah,
something anyway. Pulling the Fizz out just to deny a little bit of that from your opponent.
He's pretty much just looking for upgrades onto his other units right now, but
yeah,
does end up going for the third item onto the Echo.
All right.
Repositioning last second to just switch up the Aurelia to mix up people, and let's see if this works out.
All right, Jin's on the other side. Can Aurelia get over there and pop that GA fast enough? Oh my gosh, Aurelia is absolutely wrecking people. That is a ton of damage from the Echo as well. Ashe Arrow comes through.
The Lulu polymorph was such a big deal because it shut down the Aurelia as Aurelia was charging and diving in with her ability. But as we mentioned, that extra life buffer, that 5 health difference is massive here for Soju if he wants to pull it back.
Yep, he's still alive. Not quite dead yet. Can still finish in the top 4. But he's got to have pretty good results from here on out if he's going to do that.
Yeah, that Lulu with the Shroud of Stillness and the Quicksilver is so scary for Agon. Agon, the only person on a win streak at 10 life. So even though Khroen and Rayditz are at 40 life apiece, we might still see some reversal in the lead here.
Could be. At least as far as Khroen goes, he's all but guaranteed a top 4, which he badly needed after the way the first 3 games went tonight. Echo gets in there with a pretty quick Wukong damaging. That's a ton of misfortune damage, though, and Soju on the run. Trying to avoid it as long as he can, but he will exit in 5th. Oh, that's so rough.
Yeah.
Man,
rough games for Soju.
Really was. I mean, and that was another one of those compositions where he was just one little item, one little upgrade away from being pretty much untouchable. But look at this. Khroen found the Jinx 3. And we talked about it earlier. Like, this is how Brawler Blaster comps win lobbies right now, is they rely on Jinx 3. And he's got some pretty good items on MF as well.
Yeah, Jinx 3, now the condition becomes, can he activate Jinx reliably? And that's a
Right.
lot of times where Blitzcrank comes in. Blitzcrank's really crucial for you to set those up.
He should be able to here. Yeah, there you go. Jinx already part of one kill. Now the Rockets come in and having no trouble at all
Wow.
against Souless.
Khroen using an unusual build. Rebels have also kind of made a mini comeback under the back of having Jinx.
Yep. Very true. You don't necessarily even need that Rebel synergy, though. I mean, if you've got all the brawlers and everything, you just have Jinx in there being ultra strong at 3-star, and now we're in the 1v1. Khroen grabs a redemption.
Yeah,
It's
redemption, but his misfortune's already stacked.
Give it to the Vi maybe or something that dies early.
Very funny that Khroen has 2 protector chests as well.
You know, that it's funny that actually, I suppose, can make a little bit of a difference in terms of just keeping people alive a little bit longer. He actually adds a redemption to Cho'Gath. A little bit quicker Cho'Gath ultimate is always a good thing.
Yep, gets the final swap. Matches up. It's him versus Rayditz.
Yep, that's right. And he's got to get that damage in the back line. But Jinx has a good bead. No, MF has a good bead on the left side of the fight. MF gets ulted, turns in. Oh, better MF ult for Khroen, and he's walking forward. The GAs have been popped. And, MF, though. Not enough. It looked scary for a second, but Khroen able to win that round. That was close, though. This thing is not over yet. He's going to switch over to Rayditz POV. Yeah. Because, man, that MF coming back from GA and ulting immediately nearly turned that one around. So now how is Rayditz going to position this?
It's tricky because the big challenge is Jinx and how he's going to be able to handle Jinx.
Right. He's got a lot of semi-weak stuff in the front line, honestly. That's just kind of fodder for activating Jinx. Decides to move MF over to the side.
Yeah, and the key is that he has Misfortune 2 over Misfortune 1, so he's going to ult faster and hit harder. He gets the Jinx. Jinx Guardian Angel got popped. Can he capitalize onto this?
Ooh, it's a lot of damage. Yeah, Jinx is going to be in a lot of trouble. Meanwhile, that Kale, another MF out comes out, and this time it is enough. Wow, the positioning is going to matter so much in this 1v1. Like, this one could still, as you can see, go either way. It's really going to depend on where everyone ends up. Yeah.
Frozen Heart versus Warmogs here, and I think that both are nice, but they aren't. Actually, the Frozen Heart might be really impactful to help Cho'Gath ult just a little bit quicker.
I like Frozen Heart a little bit better, too, because it does reduce a tiny amount the incoming damage from the other side as well by slowing everyone's attack speed.
It's true. The Warmogs also is a lot worse into someone that has red buff as their primary damage.
Yeah.
Rayditz finds a misfortune. If he can deny misfortune 2 from Khroen, that might be the key here. The roll down on both sides. Khroen's rolling frantically for it. Finds misfortune 2 anyways.
Wow, okay, so he's got a chance.
So the denial plan didn't work here for Rayditz, and now we have a pretty equal showdown, I would say, because both players have Seraphs and AP items on their misfortune.
Yeah, it's really coming down. Opts for Thresh keeps the chrono buff, but makes an opportunity to pull in some more Blitzcranks. And those Blitzcranks mid-fight actually might be really, really crucial.
Okay.
Watch those Blitzcranks.
Oh, great positioning by Khroen. The misfortune gets targeted by the Vi.
Yep. It's a pretty big MF ults on both sides, actually. GA's going off everywhere. There's a redemption heal coming through, but it looks like Khroen has got enough. And this round goes to Khroen, but we're not done yet. Still 2 HP remaining for Rayditz. This is, I think this is the best 1v1 we've had, actually, on a Giant Slayer series so far. Yeah.
Just 2 hit points left. We're going to hop onto Khroen's POV and see how he's positioning. The key is that he does have this Trap Claw on Misfortune as well as a GA, so she has 2 layers of defense. Oh, no, she doesn't have a GA. It's Radiant's Misfortune that has a GA.
I believe so, yeah. That's right. We switch over to Rayditz, or Khroen's view right now. Khroen does have the GA on his Jinx as well, so
another big power play, though. He moved the Misfortune up. He wants the Misfortune to ult quickly. He gets a great spray here by Rayditz.
That is
covering most of the army.
For the MF. And despite the Cho'Gath ultimate coming through, it's too little too late. And now it's all down to MF again. Jinx can't quite do the damage, and we're going super low HP with both of these guys right now. 5 HP to 2 HP. The next round is the last round.
Yes.
Oh,
and
man.
now Khroen should be kind of in tune with the fact that Rayditz really likes to move up Misfortune. And more specifically, by moving up Misfortune, her angle gets much tighter because all of Khroen's front line, they kind of just collapse onto the same point. And so Misfortune's getting the ultimate. How does Khroen counterplay here?
The funny thing is, like, a Lulu would make such a big difference here, even though it doesn't quite fit into the comp synergy-wise. A little bit too late for that, though, as we get things started. And all right, so Rayditz MF over on the side right now. Khroen in the middle again, and another big MF ultimate. This time around, the Cho'Gath ult looking pretty solid as well. But you can see Khroen walking away. Rayditz has enough, man. GG. And Rayditz taking his first place in Giant Slayer series. He flirted with it many times last week and a little bit today as well. Finally finding it. And I feel like I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see Khroen do well, but I'm also happy to see Rayditz get a first place.
Yep.
Because
really
he's worked
well
for it.
done.
He's been so consistent for the first couple days here.
Rayditz did like 5 things that, like, I was watching both POVs on Juked very closely, and I think he did 5 things at once within the final 2 seconds that were phenomenal. But the most important thing that he did was that he would use his Blitzcrank to pull things to the front, and then Misfortune would be able to get a much more concentrated ultimate.
Right.
The second thing was that he was positioning his Kale in a really good spot to always avoid that damage, and then also be able to dodge his opponents from being able to get like the ideal Jinx spot to kill off his front line as well. There's a lot of things going on. Khroen obviously was also microing too, but Rayditz I was kind of focusing on specifically because he was the one making big power plays.
Yeah.
And honestly, Khroen's positioning options are much more limited because he can't actually afford to lose Jinx and put her in a position where she could be exposed, like the Misfortune was. On the other hand, so overall, Rayditz I think did fantastic in those late game situations, and I think he really showed his skill.
It's kind of wild too to see 2 Brawler Blaster players getting to the last 2 of one of our lobbies as well. But it kind of fits in tune that a little bit less popular comps are winning game for us here in Giant Slayer series. So when the dust settles, at the end of the day, it's going to be Souless #1 out of today's games at 30 points. Kiyoon and Rayditz tied at 23 apiece, and just behind them is Gunmay at 22. Pretty tight point spread across the board overall, actually, for today's results.
Yep. And Agon does go home, just barely missing the 8th place, but Fluffy, Khroen, Soju, all within that bottom 4, and we'll have more opportunities for them to show off their skill in the future weeks. But for now, today does belong to Souless, who I believe we're going to have a brief interview with.
I believe so. Yeah, I think we're getting him in here.
Yo.
Souless, what's up, man?
What's up?
How's it going? Pretty good results. You finished #1 in the points today?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Cool. So did you play a different composition every single game?
Yeah.
So that's something that I think I wasn't particularly expecting, because it seems like people have their pet builds. Is that something that you were planning on, or just so happened to fall into your lap?
I just try to play as many different comp, like defend with my item, and uncontested. That's why it's easier to top 4.
So do you like
you were just scouting what other people were doing and just going the opposite direction?
Yeah.
Do you prefer to kind of play that way in general right now? Do you feel like that's the optimal way to play in TFT? Is it just
I think
sort
that's
of read the lobby?
That's the optimal way to climb when people are forcing comp.
Just to see what other people are playing and then play the opposite, essentially.
Yeah, and a counter if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I played Jace, I saw a cyber lobby with like a bunch of IE, so I just built Bramble. It was so free.
Yeah,
what do you think about
Jace
too? Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you think about like the Jace carry comp in general right now that's coming up with the Jace 3?
It's pretty good into this meta.
Yeah. Cool.
Because you have Jin and Shaco, like a bunch of AD carry, like Aurelia, and Jace just clapped them.
Yeah, Jace seems to be increasingly important, and I think you did a really good job showcasing it. Do you have any opinions on Kiyoon and Delicious Milk's approach, where they just kind of force the mechs for better or for worse?
Oh, they're kind of free.
Yeah,
They are kind of free, or
You're talking about a player that won 2
strategy
of the games today.
Yeah, because he's uncontested.
I see. So as long as
He
somebody
was
can
uncontested the last game. No one was playing mech, and he got 8th.
Yeah, it's like a 50-50 comp. That's why he didn't have QSS and he lost like one
Uh-huh.
round, which is critical for him. Like when you don't have the item for a comp, you shouldn't force a comp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Gotcha.
true. Yeah,
Yeah, he did get his mech Zephyr a couple times, and I think that lost him the battles.
he held his own hand down to 8 that time.
Yep.
The other hand was my left hand.
That's right.
Yeah.
My own hand down to 8. Mech infiltrator for life.
So there's a handful of other players that haven't been able to compete yet because we had that second day where a bunch of people didn't get to play and it got rescheduled. Who do you think is like the best player that we haven't seen play yet on Giant Slayer series?
Sock.
Mismatch Socks?
Yep.
He was really upset in chat saying that people building Guardian Angel on Jhin is just wrong, and he was going
just
a little
wrong.
nuts. It is
should
wrong.
You think
be
it's
on
just wrong
Shaco.
too?
Should be in Shaco.
Should be on Shaco.
Okay.
Can you explain a little bit more why that is for people who don't know?
So when Shaco is level 2, and you compare him with like Jhin 2, it's no difference. Like when 3 Darks are die, he just one shot. But you need him to live long enough for him to revive.
So by putting it on him instead of Jhin, then you sort of give yourself the option to have
And you
different
double your carry.
carries, right?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I see. That does make
Interesting.
sense.
All right. So I gotta ask, because I'm pretty much just like one tricking Star Guardians with my climb right now. Like, what's your opinion of the strength of Star Guardian Sork overall right now?
You need a 2 core item to play Star Guardian Sword. So you need 1 tier and 1 chain and 1 cloak.
Right.
You need half a QSS, GA, and half a Seraph. Else,
Okay.
you can't just like play the comp without tier.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because when I watch kiting, he doesn't force it without tier. He always pick tier first to be flexible.
No, I think that's really important. Is that if you're gonna do it, you pick
Yeah.
tier out of the opening carousel, let everybody else fight over like sword and chain vest.
And also, you can watch out for, like who picks up tier carousel, like who contests you tier, because they might go Star Guardian. So then you would pivot off the comp.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
Souless, there was an announcement earlier today about competitive for this set at least. They didn't announce it for obviously the whole year. Has that captured your interest and ignited the competitive spirit within you?
Oh yeah, the reason I climbed 2 of my account to 2 top 10 account this season was to be ready for competitive. Because I heard like some leak about like ladder rank matters.
Right.
So I was preparing for it. Yeah, I'm so hyped for it.
I would say no matter what the format is, having 2 accounts in the top 10 probably help you get ready a little bit with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that hurts in any world. Yeah. So what would you say right now, like looking at these lobbies, is the thing that's winning the most games but besides like playing mech uncontested? Like what would you say is winning the most? Like if you look at a player like Rayditz, who's just finishing so consistently, like in your opinion, what is he doing right that's getting those finishes?
He slam items very fast. Like he see items, he slams it. He don't sit in component. But like it's not just comp. I think it's the player play style too. Like Soju, he's too free. He greens so hard, so he just tank for first or 8, right? He greens his items so hard sometimes, and his econ, and then when he don't hit, he just take the fast 8.
No, oof.
He's like
He didn't hit a lot.
Yeah.
So slamming items early gets you the win streak, gets you the consistent top 4s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
Gotcha. Do you have my last question here is 10.8 is going to come out for next week. Do you have any early predictions, or do you have any things that you like / might be concerned about for the patch?
Sorks and Darkstar.
You're predicting them to do well?
In fact, as new champion, that's both of
they're
those
gonna be top comps for sure. And Dragon Claw might be popular again. Because right now it's not popular.
The Dragon comp?
Dragon
Claw? Yeah.
Oh, Dragon Claw.
You're saying,
yeah.
Right. If you're not playing Protectors, you're probably not picking it up in a lot of cases.
Yeah. And Protector is gonna die next patch. They're nerfing Rakan way too much.
He's taking a hit.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
boy Rakan.
So that's why the Magic Con is more popular because Protector dies.
I know.
Interesting.
More people are contesting my Star Guardians now.
So the combo's probably gonna be popular next patch. Probably Darkstar, Sorks, Rebels, comps that can kill Sorks and Sorks.
Yeah, that makes
Probably.
sense.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we won't keep you around anymore. Any quick shout outs you want to do before we let you go after your victorious day here at Giant Slayer Series?
Shout out to Soju for the trade. Stay free. All right. See ya.
Soju's a 4-fun streamer. Leave him alone.
Yo.
Wow, brutal. Of course,
All right,
for
and
people who
he's
don't
out.
know, all these players are good friends. They not only, of course, jam TFT together, they also just hang out and play other Riot games. I know they're playing a lot of Valorant, for example. They also enjoy just playing board game nights. So they're really good friends, and they love, giving each other a hard time as much as giving each other advice.
Yep, exactly. You gotta have a healthy dose of trash talk with a healthy dose of friendship. What's the point of having friends if you can't trash talk them anyway, right?
That's right,
Yeah.
DoA.
Let's take a look at our schedule going forward here on Giant Slayer Series. As you know, this was only one day of Giant Slayer Series. This week we have another day tomorrow. Pretty sick lobby with Becca, Delicious Milk, Karam's got the Timo, the end mismatched socks, kiting, and Diasic should be pretty fun. And finally, after tomorrow, we will have seen all the players in this tournament play. Should be pretty cool.
That's right. You heard the hype behind Mismatched Socks, talking about how he is the best player that hasn't shown up on stream yet. We will see a couple of other people make their appearance as well. I'm looking forward to it, especially whether or not Mismatched Socks and Milk can carry some of that momentum from set 2/ the previous week.
Should be awesome. And another big thanks to juked.gg for sponsoring the tournament. Again, if you type !GSS in chat, you'll be given a link. And it's a very special link because it will take you to an amazing page that has all the points of view, all the streams for all the players. It has the schedule. It has the VODs of the previous days. And so it's kind of like your one-stop shop for seeing everything you want to see with Giant Slayer Series. All your researching needs are there, going back and looking at other VODs, just like Juke is kind of your one-stop shop for esports right now. You go to the main site, you see all the esports that's going on, and you get to find things very, very easily. It's a wonderfully laid out site, and a big thanks to them again for sponsoring us here at Giant Slayer Series. And with that, Frodan, I think that's the end of day 2, isn't it?
That's right. It's been real fun. Make sure you guys follow this channel and also keep up to date with all the Giant Slayer content. They always put out guides, tier lists, recommendations from their experts, as well as some just general content. Like myself and Travis Gaffrey will be hosting a podcast, Teamfight talk show, featuring, I believe, guest star Khroen this week, which will be really fun.
Cool. Yeah. See him play tomorrow, and then see him on the talk show and tear him apart for his performance. That'll be good. Looking forward to that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, that's it for us here at Giant Slayer Series, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time, same place for more awesome team fight tactics action. Until then, good luck in the ranked ladder. Leave the Star Guardians to me, and we'll see you tomorrow.